Conservation Institute announced this week that the past half-century of climate change and habitat loss somehow hasn't managed to take down the parrotfish. Biologists stress that despite destructive chemical runoff, rising ocean temperatures, and overfishing, the persistent little shits were somehow plugging right along like nothing had even happened.
You look at the oil spills, greenhouse gases, and God knows what else we're throwing at them, and you think, yeah, those subtropical should have been wiped out decades ago. But nope, these sons of bitches are still around and doing better than ever.
In other news, a grasshopper is dismembered by a future Supreme Court justice. A man having a great time will soon have to apologize to everyone, and Rand Paul pretends to be asleep so his dad will carry him in from the car.
This is the Onion News Network.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160 is our calling number. That's the number you want to call to get on the air to tell us what's on your mind, what's bugging you, what you think about any topic in the world you can dream of, because this is open phones. We take calls on all subjects. Of course, by we, I mean myself, Chris,
Stu, and Riley.
So give us a call. Give us something to talk about. Otherwise, we're just going to come up with stuff we want to talk about. And tonight, I wanted to kick it off by talking about labor unions. And we've been talking about, and I'm sure everybody's news feed is filled with news on the strike going on by the, longshoremen? I guess it's longshoremen.
Yeah, the longshoremen strike, and the man orchestrating the strike, essentially.
Yeah, so it's likely to have a big impact on our economy. Every port being closed, likely from Maine all the way around to Texas. I guess that's the part. And I guess the West Coast has a different union and won't be hit as hard. But it's going to impact the economy. It's going to impact people's lives. And a lot of people are out there screaming, well, that's why I don't like unions. They shouldn't be allowed to exist. This is not good for America. We should just fire them all and be done with it. And there was a time when you could do that. You could get rid of labor unions if you wanted, or you could just choose not to deal with them. But labor unions are hugely powerful in the United States.
They are. They essentially run New York City. They essentially run big areas of the world, and they're essentially running our imports and exports at this point.
And they had such a stranglehold on the American car industry that as new competitors came in, like Toyota and Mazda and others started manufacturing in America to save money, guess where they located? In non-union states.
It's because labor is probably better without unions. I mean, if you have a union that's the only monopoly in town and they're doing a terrible job, you've got to have other options.
Right. And the reason libertarians are kind of torn on this, I do believe that people do have the right to unionize.
I agree.
And there was a time when it served a real good, when people were dying in coal mines, when children were working in factories, all these things. And they still call up these tropes, pretending like it's still going on when they're defending unions. But the U.S. overreacted during the progressive era and did some horrible things. So I wanted to just dive into an article in libertarianism.org on labor unions. And it's actually just a point on this from a libertarian point of view. Libertarian principle on which the legitimacy of labor unions depends is freedom of association. Any person has a natural right to associate with any other person or group for the purposes that does not trespass against the natural rights of third parties and provided the relationship is voluntary. Conversely, any person has a natural right to refrain from association with any other person or group, no matter how fervently the other party may desire the association. Labor unions that respect each person's freedom of association are legitimate.
Indeed.
American labor unions formed and operated under the National Labor Relations Act, NLRA, are not. There are several reasons for this fact, but three are especially important. First, the NLRA, National Labor Relations Act, forbids workers individually to choose whether a union represents them in bargaining with employers about terms and conditions of employment. Instead, a union is granted monopoly bargaining, what they refer to as exclusive representation, privileges over all of the employees of an enterprise whenever a majority of those employees vote for monopoly bargaining. So you can't just opt out of having the union represent you on a particular issue. It's all or nothing, and they wrote a law that says, hey, it's all, regardless of what you may feel about any particular subject.
And that's the problem I have with a union, is it forces people to be part of that organization. And, it's like it becomes a religion, essentially, because religions force you to participate in their system if you don't want to. Well, some religions do, but not all of them do. I mean, I'm thinking about Islam here. I came from a religion that probably doesn't force you to, but, it's implied in the culture. But anyway, when you have an institution like a union demand that you are in for everything, that becomes a problem because it's essentially a monopoly on your life.
Well, and I would say it's not the union's fault. The union's doing what they're doing.
Right.
It's government's fault because they set up all these rules and all these laws that allow unions to act this way, and that's certainly wrong.
To me, it seems it was creepy enough just having an employment situation that's kind of a three-way between the boss and then you got this weird entity in there that's like, hey, I want my cut.
Right.
And I've never worked for a union, but to me, it seems like that would be strange to have an even fourth entity in that mix.
I didn't ask for a menage a trois in this job.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's a huge part of it. And I've worked in union shops, not as a union employee, but where we worked, we had and this was when I worked at a big corporation. I've talked to both of you about where I worked before, and my wife was the idiot who decided that this would be a great idea and decided to unionize.
Wow.
I've never let her live it down. No, and there's a lot of good to that, but like I met her, okay? I've got to say that. I am required by law. After saying anything slightly disparaging about my wife, I must follow it up with, and I love her. Okay.
Is that the laws that she passed down?
I am pretty sure that's federal law at some level.
Okay.
A union that wins such a, quote, certification election, unquote, represents all the workers who voted for the union, which is legitimate. However, the union also represents workers who voted against the union, as well as those who did not vote at all. Individuals are forbidden to represent themselves. If a union represents you, you are associated with it. If you do not consent to the association, your freedom of association is violated. Defenders of the monopoly bargaining justify it as an appeal to democracy. We choose our congressional representatives by majority vote, so the defenders claim by analogy. So it is proper to choose our workplace representatives in the same manner. But this analogy is specious. Forcing a numerical minority to concede to the will of a numerical majority might be an appropriate decision in questions that are inherently governmental, such as the election of congressional representatives. Such force, however, is never justified in a private sphere of human action, such as the purchase and sale of one's labor services. Moreover, the analogy is incomplete Under the NLRA, a union that wins certification never has to stand for re-election. So once you get the union in, it's extremely difficult to get them out. The best reaction to this I ever saw, I worked for a paint company years and years ago when I lived in Maryland, and it was non-union. And the owner of the company, who was by that time an extremely wealthy man, his family had owned it for a couple generations, and they were big. They were building plants and opening stores all over the place. It was crazy. And he treated everybody pretty well. You know, nobody complained that they weren't getting paid enough.
Right.
Nobody claimed that they weren't getting the benefits they needed and all sorts of opportunities. But occasionally you would hear rumblings of, they want to unionize in the factory. And he was always real clear. He says, if you guys want to unionize, I'm certainly not going to oppose it. I'll close the company. I'll just sell it because, frankly, I don't need the money. I'll just close.
Mm-hmm.
And
that sounds like a very principled response to having people unionize.
He said, I do a lot to make sure that our people are taken care of. And if you feel that that's not worth it, then fine, we'll just close. And there was never any unionization.
Yeah.
There was very little talk, but that was that guy's point of view, and I thought it was a good one.
I was a machinist for over a decade, and as far as I know it, that was the exact same agreement the machinist industry has, is that all the bosses are just close up shop
right
as quick as they can if the employees unionize.
And I imagine they could reopen, If you don't like, then we'll just close and reopen another shop. And you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It would be pretty easy. But now, I mean, I don't know. It's a combination. I think the early unions got into a couple areas and they kind of grew and grew and grew and became very powerful. And then when government gets involved and creates these artificial monopolies, then they're just very hard to get rid of. And in the case of the longshoremen, I mean, it may not have been that big a deal when our trade was probably more diverse. But now I think pretty much everything comes in by ship. It's not practical to ship things from railroad. I'm sure it is in some examples. Maybe it's the size, the scale of trade that is now. It's like a lot of things in this country didn't scale the way we'd never envisioned.
Mm-hmm.
Like the size of government. That one scaled. That one just doesn't scale at all.
No, it does not.
And every day is a testament to that. Second, under the NLRA, a certified union can force all the workers it represents to pay fees for its representation services. These fees are called, quote, union security, unquote. It is legitimate for a union to charge these members who entered it voluntarily for its services, but it is not legitimate to force those who do not want the union to represent them to pay for its services. When you are asked to accept representation services you do not want, your freedom of association is denied. When you are also forced to pay for the services that you do not want, the trespass against you is compounded. Defenders of union security justify these forced membership dues by appeal to the free rider argument. They say the NLRA forces a certified union to represent all the workers who were eligible to vote in the certification election. Therefore, when a union is successful in bargaining for better terms and conditions of employment, all workers, not just voluntary union members, receive those gains. If the other workers were not forced to pay for the union bargaining services, they would receive union-generated benefit for free, and that, the defenders argue, would be unfair. The counterargument is obvious. If unions represented only the members who voluntarily elected to be represented, there would be no free rider problem. Union-generated benefits would accrue only to the workers they represent. This free rider problem does not emerge from the inherent nature of employee relationships. It is an artifact of the NLRA. We're going to go to the phones where we've got Peter in Virginia. Peter, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yep. Thanks for taking my call. Just wanted to also highlight to the point you guys are talking about the union. This is a good book published back in the 80s. I first came across this book in one of my economic classes. This book is, I think it's called The Rise and Decline of Nations by Mansur Olson, who basically wrote a premise about the fact that stagnation in the 70s was primarily driven by, in addition to getting off the gold standard and going, Rambo on the money supply, was driven by the rise of special interest groups and how, by being exclusive by nature and just all the resources they use for lobbying, that in addition will bring down the economy, misallocation of resources. But there's a section in that book where he kind of ties it to unions and how unions, in effect, are just like a lobbying group. They have a vested interest to be exclusive, so it's just them and their group. And I'm not too sure about the argument that maybe the author of that point was making about the free rider problem, but if you think about this through this perspective, I think unions are really not a good thing. So again, unions by nature are exclusive, and what they end up doing is put inflationary pressures on prices, and that is the wages and salaries of workers. And if you're not in that group, unfortunately, you're out of luck and you're out of a job. And if you these guys really do act like a genuine mob of some sort. So if you try to spill the beans or do anything that goes outside the interests of the union, they literally go after you. So if you saw that video of this guy that was speaking yesterday, I mean, he sounded to me like Robert De Niro or something like this, like an Italian guy.
Oh yeah.
But all to say, it's if you think about it through the perspective of collective action, yeah, sure, collective action of the collective body, but who burdens this cost? Well, it's the business, the owner, and anyone not in this group.
Right.
So, to say that a union is needed and that they support the interests of the worker, that's really, short-sighted. Sure, it supports the interests of the worker that happens to be in this union, but it doesn't support the interests of the worker who's not a part of that union working under the same company. And, we have to also remember that, wages are simply prices, right? Prices is the price in this case is the price that a business pays for your services. And we have to also remember that the owner of this company, right, of this shipping company of some sort, didn't hire these guys by force or violence. So that is to say, he didn't take a gun and say, "Look, you're working for me, or else." And there could be a contract. Sure, I'm not too sure. There could be a contract stating, "Okay, look, I'm employed for 3-4 years. That's good." But if there is no contract, and this guy has a better opportunity to find something, or he wants to find something else, he's free to leave, But again, so sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think what we're really talking about is the abomination that has created unionism under the National Labor Relations Act. It's not like, I think we all agree that everybody has the right to associate with whoever they want, and if they want to collect a bargain, they have every right to. But when the NLRA came in and added all these caveats saying that, okay, if you win the election, every person is automatically a union member and must pay dues, that's wrong. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And even if you had like a 75% of all longshoremen were union, but 25% had never joined the union and they just had a relationship directly with the shipping companies, then this would be a very different discussion. It may still be that it's seriously going to affect it's going to affect the amount of time it's going to take for your toilet paper to get here and all that good stuff. But that owner of that company could say, hey, I need dock workers, and we're paying top dollar because the union's going the other way. So we need them, and we're willing to pay for it. That is not allowed now, and
it should be.
That's the problem to me.
Exactly, and I think one point that you just raised as well, right, is the fact that we're unfortunately in this nation, we're so dependent on imports that we need these. These guys are basically the medium of exchange of getting these imports to our stores in our country.
Oh yeah.
But my fear is that if things don't work out, right, say in the short term, and it spreads out during the holiday season, and we feel the upward pressure in prices, just basic supply and demand stuff, the shocks. My fear is that guys like Vance or someone like this will play the mercantilist card even more so than he did last night, and that will again go into sentiment of a lot of Americans that may say, well, yeah, JD Vance does have a point. Why should we go through all this nonsense and friction? We should just be making everything under the sun.
Right. And
unfortunately, people that think like that, even Vance, I'm surprised this guy's. I respect the guy's background, where he came from, and his education, but unfortunately, maybe they didn't teach him basic Ricardian specialization and the importance of international commerce. But
I'm
again,
wonder whether they teach anyone that anymore.
Who knows?
Exactly. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate the time, and have a good one. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Peter. So I just want to make a brief comment about this port strike. I mean, as America, like I said earlier, like has been stated earlier, we're very dependent on imports and exports here in America. And this port strike could be a very big deal. Now, that being said, I'm hoping that it doesn't turn out to be a big deal, but at the end of the day, it's still going to be a big deal. And, the best thing we can do is prepare for it.
Yeah. And, already I'm seeing stories of panic buying for toilet paper and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Of course.
Did you go through all of your COVID supply already? You have no toilet paper left. This is crazy. I get that. And that kind of goes to being a prepared individual, and you should be prepared for these things. And there's all kinds of things that can hit us, and they can last for a long time. So you got to be on some level prepared to weather these things. To me, it just illustrates another horrible effect of government. And this type of thing should never have been as big an issue as it is. And to the election, I don't know whose side I hate more. I hate the idea of Trumpian tariffs, the fact that I am going to be the one paying the tariffs on Chinese products because I do buy products made in China, and the cost of those products are going to go up. So he's not punishing the Chinese, he's punishing me. I don't really appreciate that.
I don't think any of us do, and I think the big problem in America is people don't think about it. A lot of the Republicans are like, yeah, let's charge the Chinese extra, but they don't think about the consequences.
Exactly. 603-283-6160 is our call-in number. This is Free Talk Live.
Thank you for great money-saving ideas. I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. Among recent suggestions submitted to the blog, double-check your checking and bank accounts for those trial subscriptions and memberships that have become permanent if you don't cancel them, which many, possibly most, don't or forget to. You may not have noticed small automatic payments. 2 energy-saving tips for the kitchen. If you cover and wrap foods in the fridge, you will prevent moisture from escaping and ask less of the compressor. Use plastic wrap, not aluminum foil. And you should only run the dishwasher when it's full. Several who posted are selling their gently used clothing online at Poshmark or Depop, DEPOP.com. How are you coping? Post your inflation hacks on the blog at andyoucanquoteme.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. The United Nations Security Council members have voiced concern over the escalating tensions in the Middle East. The Council convened an emergency session on Wednesday following Iran's missile attack on Israel on Tuesday. Jody Jacobs reports from the United Nations in New York.
It was another intense session of the UN Security Council on Wednesday, with Israel insisting Iran will pay the ultimate price for its attack.
Israel will defend itself.
But this did not go down well with Iran. Its ambassador to the UN, Amir Sahid Arafani, maintaining the attack was out of necessity and a proportionate response to Israel's continued aggression in the region.
Israeli must understand that each act of aggression it makes, it's not unpunished.
The United States has pledged its full support to Israel.
The United States is fully supportive of Israel.
Fears are mounting here in New York of a potential all-out regional war, something that has the UN Secretary General worried. Antonio Guterres saying this deadly cycle of tit-for-tat violence must stop.
A California doctor has pleaded guilty to conspiring to distribute the drug ketamine in connection to the death of actor Matthew Perry. The Friends star was found dead in his hot tub last year after a ketamine overdose. From California, Ira Spitzer has more.
Mark Chavez pleaded guilty in a Los Angeles courtroom, admitting to diverting ketamine from his clinic to another doctor, who then sold the drug to Matthew Perry. Chavez entered the plea as part of a cooperation agreement with authorities and faces a maximum sentence of 10 years. The Friends star, who was 54 years old when he died last October, had become addicted to the drug, which is sometimes legally used to treat depression. 5 people have been charged over Perry's death, and 3 of them, including Chavez and Perry's former assistant, have agreed to plea deals. The other 2 have pleaded not guilty and are awaiting trial.
US President Joe Biden has visited North and South Carolina, while Vice President Kamala Harris is going to neighboring Georgia after the region was pummeled by Hurricane Helene. The president announced the deployment of an additional 1,000 active duty soldiers to bolster rescue and recovery efforts. They join more than 10,000 National Guard and federal aid workers already spread out across the southeastern US. At least 175 people are now known to have been killed by Hurricane Helene. Hundreds of others remain missing. Thousands of US dock workers are on strike for a second day in a dispute over pay and the move towards automation. Economists fear the disruption could impact the US economy and global supply chains. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Is the number to call. We are talking labor unions. We are talking dock workers going on strike. And we're talking about how screwed up the American system of labor unions is. Nothing against labor unions, but everything against the National Labor Relations Act, passed by our favorite period in American history to make fun of, the Progressive Era. So you can thank you can thank him for later stuff.
Yeah, you can thank LBJ for later stuff, but
this goes back to Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah, Woodrow Wilson,
and
Theodore Roosevelt, I think.
Yes, right before Woodrow, we had Teddy.
Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt.
A great book by Andrew Napolitano, Teddy and Woodrow, the Dawn. I can't remember the exact title, but it's about the first births of the progressive era in the United States, and those two guys, one Republican, one Democrat, are there for you to thank. But a good read. We've been talking about stuff that goes wrong under the American form, such as, monopoly bargaining, union security, forcing members to pay dues, And there were 3 points they wanted to get to. Third, under the NLRA, employers are forced to bargain in good faith with certified unions, meaning whatever union won the vote, they now represent all the workers that they were trying to unionize, whether they voluntarily joined the union or not. So they are forced, if you're an employer, you have to bargain in good faith with certified unions. The good faith requirement means that an employer may not extend any take it or leave it offers. The only sure defense an employer has against a charge of failure to bargain in good faith is a record of making concessions. Parties to bargaining are associated with each other, thus forcing bargaining is forced association. No one should be forced to bargain over an issue, and parties who agree to bargain should not be forced to make concessions during the process. In summary, libertarians believe that each individual worker must be free to choose whether to be represented by a union, prepared to represent him, or by some other willing third party, or represent himself. Each union must be free to choose which workers it agrees to represent, nor may any union, which represents only its voluntary members, force any union-free workers to pay dues, which they are now. Employers and unions representing voluntary members may choose to bargain or come to agreements based on mutual consent, but they must not be forced to bargain with each other. These relationships are the only ones consistent with a society of free individuals entering into free association. And I wanted to talk about one more thing with unions, and it's simply this. If a company wants to hire union workers, to me, it's like, okay, at your own peril. Right. It's probably not going to end well for you, but you're free to do that. What I have a real problem with is government workers unionizing. Mm-hmm. So there is no accountability. Once unions get involved in government work, then how do we have any transparency into that? How do we go back and say...
Can we demand transparency from the unions? That's the question.
Well, no, you can't.
Why can't we?
Especially not if they're government. And I just don't like the idea that, we are allegedly voting for representatives to represent our best interests. But if a union is in that mix too, now suddenly we have a third party who is not subject to what I wish to pass through my representatives. It's now taken out. It's now off to the side. It's now handled by compliance with the National Labor Relations Act, and it goes before the National Labor Relations Board, who handles those contracts. So I don't really have a say, and that's a travesty. I mean, that is not at all anything we were sold when we signed this Constitution, that we may just simply outsource all of it and deny you any ability to go in against this.
Just to be clear, I didn't sign the Constitution.
Riley, I've seen the document. Your name is there.
Where?
You signed it.
When did I sign it?
I've also seen the social contract.
Mine is suspiciously absent.
Now, I know, and nonetheless, I mean, because somebody believes that we've all agreed to this thing, we are all subject to it, and you can argue all you want that the Constitution was a really good idea, and it led to the creation of the United States, and you can wave your flags and all that. But I do not believe it has stood up to the test of time.
I don't think so either. And I think the problem is that, we've become lax and we've been more willing to let someone else represent us rather than representing ourselves and understanding the founding documents. And yet, here we are debating over what the founding documents actually said.
Well, I know what they say.
Oh, so do I.
I've read it. I've read exactly. I've read how many powers that are limited are enumerated to the federal government, and it's not that long a list.
You know, I got through the Declaration of Independence, and that was a fantastic document. And then I delved further into the Constitution. I got about as far as Article 6. And once they said that the government could just make a treaty with some other entity, and now I'm subject to that other entity,
right?
I was pretty much done with that.
Yeah.
I don't know how that ever sounded like a good idea to anybody at any point in history ever.
Back in those days, I guess they thought it was a good idea because, at one point they were subject to a king, and now that they had elections going on, their hope was that these quote-unquote elected officials would make better decisions because they were supposedly representing people.
Right, but we didn't. I mean, we had already created the Articles of Confederation. We had already established this country when we signed. Why do I say we? I was not there. I know I'm old. I know this, but I was not there.
I wasn't there either.
But the idea that and it's in the opening, in order to form a more perfect union, they thought they were going to make this improvement. The Federalists, the ones who did want a big centralized form of government, got a lot of what they wanted, and the only reason the Anti-Federalists ever agreed to go along was the inclusion of a Bill of Rights that would provide some protections to people and protect natural rights. That was the idea behind that, and that's a great document too. I get that, but I don't think it should have been debated a few more times, and I just don't believe that it's worked. It has not worked. It did not constrain the size of government. Government is overgrown, bloated, and approaching 40 trillion. We're at 30. Are we approaching $35 trillion in debt?
I think we're there. I think we're at 35 trillion.
35. Right, I love the bill that did not pass in the New Hampshire House of Representatives, where if we ever hit $40 trillion in national debt, that would automatically trigger a vote for New Hampshire to voluntarily leave the United States.
That was definitely a good piece of legislation that should have passed, but not enough people like the idea. I think the last time such ideas of secession went through, it was 12 people that voted for it, and this time there were double the number. So maybe next time we can get double the number again.
I like the idea of having a trigger, something that the U.S. government is never going to reduce its national debt unless they just default on everything, which would make a global disaster.
Maybe they just want to inflate away the debt.
They'll keep trying, and one could argue, and I've got a friend who has worked on Wall Street, and she's a rarity. She's worked for decades on Wall Street, and she's very much an Austrian. Economics, she believes in that. She understands that, and that's pretty rare on Wall Street. But the way she described it to me, because I was talking to her 10 years ago going, there's no way this thing can be around in 5 years. How can we keep racking up the debt we're grabbing? And her thing was, in a macroeconomics view, you have to look at the total balance sheet of the United States and how the United States has so much resource, so much land, so many businesses that are so huge that we really do have a balance sheet that is still, at this point, 10, 15 years ago, still positive. I would like to know where that stands now. And
yeah, me too.
It was one thing to say, we're only $3 trillion in debt and we're still positive, but are we now at 35 trillion? And
well, I think that anytime they get that stat looking good, it's only a mechanism for ratcheting, so that they can regrip and pull it higher up the debt ladder. Because that's their only goal. That's how they figured out how to steal more from us than we ever had in the first place.
I understand. I just think at some point our debt is going to cease to have any value, and if we are unable to sell that to banks or other governments, then
No, that's how it's designed.
I understand what you're saying.
Because the guys who set it up, they're not dealing in dollars or yen or any other kind of national currency. They're dealing in land and gold.
Right. And
Maybe that's why the federal government's holding on to so much land, and so they can start selling it off if they ever start losing money or need to
That
bail
is the
themselves out.
suspicion, yes.
Yeah, that's certainly possible, especially in the West, where how much of Utah is
70%.
70%. I think Oregon's just a shade over 50% of the state is owned by, quote unquote, the federal government, and most of the Western states are like that.
And I think that's what we really don't think about here in the East, because we don't have a lot of open land here. And in the West, there is a lot of open land that could be used for other things, but the federal government has a chokehold on it, and you can't use that land.
Well, they're nice enough to let you camp on it as long as you're not there for more than 2 weeks.
Exactly. And if you've got cattle, yeah, come on out, let your cattle graze.
You just got to pay us for it.
Yeah, just pay us for it. You can do that.
Here's a bunch of small print.
Right. And watch out for those desert tortoises, because we may just say that's no longer available.
Yeah, that's right.
And of course, you may just get attacked by the FBI and everybody else who is watching you.
Yeah, it's the hazards of the West, man.
It's crazy. 603-283-6160 is our call-in number. Give us a ring. I don't know. I don't know. I just every year it's like I look at the national debt growing, and come on. And Lori and I and Riley did a collapsitarian version of Free Talk Live. Actually, we did Apocalypse Talk Live.
I think we did a couple weeks ago.
And that was
actually
fun. Yeah,
that was a good one.
Yeah, it was fun. We talked about the world ending, and since then, a few things have happened to push that ending a little more, like the port strike going on, and then Iran attacking Israel. So,
yeah, it's not a day goes by that it doesn't look a little bleaker in most ways. And, well, fortunately, we have an election coming up, so that's going to solve all our problems.
Yeah, when Kamala Harris or Donald Trump get elected, all our problems are going to go away.
I just, everybody's worried that the other side will turn into a tyrant and do all these things. It'll be the end of life as you know.
Yeah, they're just projecting their own fears onto the other candidate, because they're already afraid of the office of the president being so powerful. So they gotta project their fears on somebody.
The office of the president being so powerful is all because half the country decided when their guy was in there to give him more power.
Yep.
And then it flip-flopped, and then the other guy got in and decided, we want to make sure our president has more power, and then it flips back and forth, and now you have an out of control central government led by I don't even know how to characterize Biden. A dementia patient. I mean, and then you have another 78, 79-year-old guy waiting in the wings for a chance.
Yeah, I think. Well, I don't know if Biden's a dementia patient, but he's old and feeble, for sure. And Trump is getting up there as well, and he's going to be old and feeble by the time he gets out of office, or 4 years from now, when if he is, going to, well, he can't run for another term because he's
so you're
already
making a case for Kamala.
Yeah.
Are you?
No, I'm not making a case for Kamala. I'm making a case that somebody younger has got to come along, but we all know that. People
Kamala's
seem
younger.
she's younger, but she's also not very bright. She's also not a great person to get behind, because she has policies that aren't in line with my personal values.
So we should just vote whichever way you're voting?
You can vote however you want.
I will not be voting.
You won't?
No, thank you.
You're not going to... Come on, man.
This is the most important election of your lifetime, Stu.
Man. You're
Better
not.
to do.
You don't want that.
Yeah.
They give you a sticker.
If you
I have
vote,
to
you
trim my
can't
nose
complain.
hair. I have to something else unimportant.
People would say, well, if you don't vote, you can't complain. And my objection to that is, well, of course I can complain. There's no reason why I can't, because you're forcing your people onto me. I don't want to be forced into your stupid system.
I've heard this opinion expressed before. I think somebody actually said that to me. I might just say okay, and then conversation over.
That's the best way to diffuse those situations. Just go, okay. Okay, my opinion doesn't matter to you. That's fine. I'm fine. I really don't care who listens to my opinions, because they are worth exactly what you paid for them.
Yep. I have a couple of conditions on voting. I'll do it when they de-anonymize the ballot.
Okay.
And I can see exactly that my vote went where I wanted it to. And I can look at everybody else's vote and see how they voted. That's one condition.
Okay. I don't think that's unreasonable.
No, I think that's
I would see some benefit in both of those.
Mm-hmm. I forgot what the other condition is, because the one will never be met anyways.
Decentralize the voting system.
Oh, it has to be an actual vote. All you're doing is being polled. They're just getting your opinion. Your vote doesn't count. It literally doesn't count.
That's true.
Well, it does. It's just the problem that it's numerically impossible for your vote to matter.
Oh, unless you're an electorate. I don't think you're an electorate.
No. If you are one of the chosen, one of the 500 and some electoral votes,
the holy and anointed,
then you would have an actual vote for president that would make more sense. But I don't know that the Electoral College has ever voted when it came down to one vote. No, I think it has once or twice.
I think it has,
but I'm not sure.
It's come down to a bad faith vote.
I don't know if it's happened in this century or the last. I think back in the 1800s, there was a couple elections that were that close.
Yeah, I can't remember.
In the Electoral College, but again, at this point, when you go into your polling place and you write down or you pull a table or you punch a chat or whatever you happen to do.
Punch chat. I like it.
Well, I'm dating myself.
I know what you're getting at, but calling it punching a Chad is kind of funny because there are people named Chad and
and they are named Chad. Now, I was thinking back to the good old Bush and
the Bush Gore election
debacle.
Yeah.
When votes didn't really count, what counted in that election was 7 people on the Supreme Court who decided that election.
Yeah.
Yep. That was a weird one, wasn't it? Almost like they did it that way on purpose, just to show you a little bit behind the curtain there.
Yeah. You can say whoever you want.
But the guy was in the middle of his victory celebration, and they're like, whoa, wait, hold up.
Wait, we're not going to go that way. Yeah, that one was weird. It was really weird, and that did feel sort of coup-ish, like C-O-U-P. I get that.
Yeah. We just want to show you that we actually hold the reins here, not you plebes calling yourselves the people.
Not only that, the other thing about voting is, according to the track record that I see, my best educated guess would be to vote for how do you say her name? Kamala?
Kamala.
Yeah. I can never get it right.
Because they always do pretty much exactly not what they said they're going to do.
So, by that rationale, well, the only thing she's said, the only firm policy I've gotten out of her is she's going to give away a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's going to be child tax credits.
Well, I'm excited for the money. Hopefully I get a little penny.
Right? They're going to $25,000 for everybody to buy a new house or your first home. Lots of money for small businesses. So
she says she's going to do that. So she's going to make it real hard on the regular people.
Right. And no, she's never going to get any of that spending past Congress.
Oh, okay.
So good luck with any of it.
Unless it's a Democrat-controlled Congress.
Well, even then, I mean, the Democrats don't have a real good record of getting all their stuff through, even with a Democrat Senate and House.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's well, I mean, so much ridiculousness comes out of the Oval Office that they just sit there and go, "Yeah, we got to get reelected. We can't pass this stuff." But nice try.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think. Trump, on the other hand, I love the fact that he said, "I will pardon Ross Ulbricht," which should happen regardless.
I agree.
I love that.
Well, he's not going to pardon. I don't know if he's going to pardon. He's going to commute his sentence.
Whatever.
Yeah.
He's going to make life a little easier on Ross.
Which is good.
I think that's a good thing. But he wants to tariff the whole world, and that's a bad thing for U.S. consumers. And I am a U.S. consumer, so I don't really want to see that. I don't believe that going to war economically with every other country, particularly the second largest economy in the entire world, is really a good idea. But there's a level of jingoism going on in this too, and
if I go ahead and pretend that the show that plays out that way is something real, I can almost believe that the tariffs would have a positive effect in that manufacturing might increase. You might have more things produced domestically rather,
You would. It's protectionism of U.S. industries.
Well, I don't think there's any industry that's not now involved in protectionism to some degree or another.
It's true. I just don't want to see it on a 20% increase the costs of. So consider protectionism not unlike protection money from the mob, right? If we're okay with some level of protection racket going on, are we okay with 20% increase on that protection money?
Right.
And are others going to be okay with that? I don't know that. At some point, it seems like all these plays of U.S. exceptionalism are going to backfire, and somebody's going to go, "Nah, you went too far."
I don't think that's going to happen. People love the U.S. too much.
I don't think the Chinese do. 603-283-6160 is our call-in number. This is Free Talk Live.
Some of you have wanted to support Free Talk Live's mission on a monthly basis, but don't want to support Patreon. Now we have an alternative that also helps our premier streaming platform, Odyssey. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join at the top of the channel. You can subscribe for $5 per month, and unlike other subscription services, Odyssey adds their processing fee on top, so it'll cost a little over $5 per month, but Free Talk Live will receive the entire amount you pledged. Higher donation tiers are available if you're feeling so inspired. You'll get a special membership badge that's visible in the Odyssey chat room, and if we get enough supporters, we may enable members-only chat. This new subscription method is a great way to decentralize our direct listener support away from just Patreon and also support a libertarian-run business, Odyssey. Please visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join to subscribe to our Odyssey channel and help support spreading our message around the planet. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click Join today.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. The United Nations Security Council members have voiced concern over the escalating tensions in the Middle East. The Council convened an emergency session on Wednesday following Iran's missile attack on Israel on Tuesday. Jody Jacobs reports from the United Nations in New York.
It was another intense session of the UN Security Council on Wednesday, with Israel insisting Iran will pay the ultimate price for its attack.
Israel will defend itself.
But this did not go down well with Iran. Its ambassador to the UN, Amir Saeed Arafani, maintaining the attack was out of necessity and a proportionate response to Israel's continued aggression in the region.
Israelis must understand that each act of aggression it makes, it's not unpunished.
The United States has pledged its full support to Israel.
The United States is fully supportive of Israel.
Fears are mounting here in New York of a potential all-out regional war, something that has the UN Secretary General worried. Antonio Guterres saying this deadly cycle of tit-for-tat violence must stop.
A California doctor has pleaded guilty to conspiring to distribute the drug ketamine in connection to the death of actor Matthew Perry. The Friends star was found dead in his hot tub last year after a ketamine overdose. From California, Ira Spitzer has more.
Mark Chavez pleaded guilty in a Los Angeles courtroom, admitting to diverting ketamine from his clinic to another doctor, who then sold the drug to Matthew Perry. Chavez entered the plea as part of a cooperation agreement with authorities and faces a maximum sentence of 10 years. The Friends star, who was 54 years old when he died last October, had become addicted to the drug, which is sometimes legally used to treat depression. 5 people have been charged over Perry's death, and 3 of them, including Chavez and Perry's former assistant, have agreed to plea deals. The other 2 have pleaded not guilty and are awaiting trial.
US President Joe Biden has visited North and South Carolina, while Vice President Kamala Harris is going to neighboring Georgia after the region was pummeled by Hurricane Helene. The president announced the deployment of an additional 1,000 active duty soldiers to bolster rescue and recovery efforts. They join more than 10,000 National Guard and federal aid workers already spread out across the southeastern US. At least 175 people are now known to have been killed by Hurricane Helene. Hundreds of others remain missing. Thousands of US dock workers are on strike for a second day in a dispute over pay and the move towards automation. Economists fear the disruption could impact the US economy and global supply chains. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. What happens next in the Middle East after Israel, backed militarily by the US, fought back against a barrage of Iranian missiles fired at the country on Tuesday? Israel is threatening reprisals, so is the United States. Alistair Burt is a former British Foreign Office minister who used to have responsibility for the Middle East.
Everybody can have all sorts of plans, but once attacks start, then it is true, and most military people would tell you that as soon as combat is started, things can go out of control very quickly. What has changed is the tit-for-tat that there has been between Hezbollah and Israel for some time. Israel has got tired of that, has escalated the situation to remove what it considers to be the danger to northern Israel and its maybe 60,000 displaced people to try and clear the danger. The risk for it is it may not be able to achieve this objective, and that Hezbollah may find its allies wanting to come in on its side. But that implies risks to all of them. So we may still be in a situation where people are not quite prepared to make a commitment to something which would genuinely be catastrophic.
The US government says it's going to make it easier for American citizens in Lebanon to leave the country, booking more flights for them to get out of the country. Tuesday's events only seem to underscore the sense that the region remains a tinderbox. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
Our main news again. The UN Security Council has voiced concern over the escalating tensions in the Middle East. A California doctor's pleaded guilty to conspiring to distribute the drug ketamine in connection to the death of actor Matthew Perry. And US President Joe Biden has visited North and South Carolina, while Vice President Kamala Harris is going to neighboring Georgia after the region was pummeled by Hurricane Helene. And that's the latest feature story news. Kate Fisher reporting.
The Surgeon General warns teens the Cinnamon Challenge is not for pussies. Taylor Swift is now dating the Watertown boat, and a middle-aged funeral director buys a flashy red hearse. We pity your pathetic dependence on this for your weekly news, but here we go anyway. This is the Onion Week in Review. A study released this week by the National Institutes of Health confirmed that for the 25th straight year, wolf attacks remain the leading cause of death in the United States. The Human Health Agency's findings confirmed that being viciously killed by a ravenous wolf claimed the lives of over 800,000 Americans last year alone, with researchers adding that one person in the United States dies every 40 seconds from a violent wolf attack.
The mortality rate associated with wolf attacks vastly outstrips the death tolls of cancer, stroke, and chronic respiratory disease. People should know that anyone... Oh, Jesus, no.
This is the Onion News Network.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. Hour number 2. Thank you so much for joining us. In the studio, it's myself, Chris, Stu,
and Riley.
And we talked for hour 1 about labor unions and how I think we were all basically in agreement that there's nothing wrong with pooling your resources and pooling your labor and pooling your and the concept of collective bargaining. But in the United States, it just got kind of...
You have the right to unionize. You just don't have the right to force your union on me, essentially.
Right.
That's what we agreed upon.
And that's absolutely what the National Labor Relations Act did. It made government a party to what should be a negotiation between employers and employees. But first, I do want to remind you that Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash, digital cash with fees of less than a penny per transaction. Dash is made for spending. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol and in multi-crypto wallets. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month for this sponsorship. It's easy to get and use Dash. That's dash.org. That's at dash.org. And Riley, did my business accept Dash today while I wasn't even there?
No.
Not
the guy helping us wasn't sure how to accept Dash.
Oh, dang it. But on the positive side, we did sell a bunch of goldbacks this morning.
Really?
Yeah, a guy from Georgia was up here. He's originally from up in New Hampshire. He and his wife have lived in Georgia for an awfully long time. But he did want to get his hands on some New Hampshire goldbacks, so that was pretty cool. I always like selling those and getting more of them out into circulation. I love the idea of goldbacks.
Oh, I love goldbacks too. I think they're a phenomenal, tool. They're phenomenal. I guess if you want to call it a currency, you can call it a currency. It's just a phenomenal way of buying, of using and spending gold. And it's from what I've heard, they're pretty, they're portable. You don't have to go to some bank to get them. You can just buy them from Chris here in New Hampshire.
Yeah. Or go to goldback.com. I like goldbacks because gold has been used for money for thousands of years, and it's kind of the gold standard, if you will.
Indeed.
Yeah. But goldbacks are the first time that it's been easily divisible. So I think the going rate for goldbacks today was $5.48. So if you give, $5.48, we're going to give you change back in U.S. fiat currency. Sorry. But the idea that you can buy a soda and a hot dog for $1 Goldback, that's pretty cool. You can't really come in with a Krugerrand and pay for your hot dog and soda with that.
Yeah.
We're going to go to the phones where we've got a anonymous caller from Midvale, Utah. Caller, you're on Free Talk Live.
It's your boy, the evolutionary capitalist. Hey,
Sir,
horses
not my
have been...
boy.
I'm Riley's boy.
No, you're not my boy either. I'm not claiming you.
Riley.
But horses were used as transportation for thousands of years. Why don't you use horses for transporting?
Because automobiles are much better.
How do you think I got here?
Bicycles work better.
Do you guys like the labor theory of value? Because that's what John Locke used to construct natural rights. Did you know that? Not only are you utilitarians, but you guys believe in the labor theory of value. But and guess what? Social contracts are valid under libertarianism. You know that? When you're trespassing on another group's property, like kids on parents' property. You guys realize that, right? And stop advocating for Ross Ulbricht's pardon. Not only is he not contrite for his murder for hires, which is clear and unambiguous with the evidence, but he continues to use his mom and gullible libertarians to perpetuate his lies just to try to get out of jail early.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, and would you get out of the way of government heading into a debt default? We have to go through system collapse. It might be even unavoidable in order to begin to learn what's wrong with the system.
Am I advocating for stopping government spending? I couldn't have even, no matter how much I advocated.
Okay.
They're not going to listen to us, dude.
On this, you and I are actually in agreement.
No. Do you advocate to repeal wars? I mean, to not go into wars.
Yes.
Do you advocate
I
to
don't
repeal
for
the drug war?
So I'm opposed to wars for different
advocate-
reasons than you support wars. I don't like the idea of human deaths.
That's what you get with government inefficiency. And if you need to get to a certain point of government inefficiency, you can't avoid it.
I
The
understand
best
what you're
thing to
saying.
do-
Just on that one, I'm still kind of on the fence.
And
But I thought
here's
you
the
would.
kicker.
I thought you would be happy.
Let me give you the kicker, right? If you slow down this, if you decelerate the system collapse, there's not a linear relationship on the duration and the intensity. So if you cut government spending in half, like if you lower the intensity, it might last 3 times as long or something like that, or 4 times as long, which doubles the damage, right? It's like the frog boiling in water, right? You're advocating for a slow simmer until the frog dies.
I'm not.
Okay, how do you like that analogy? Then stop advocating against wars and the drug war and for repeal of collective bargaining laws.
We're just trying to preach the good news of liberty to people, dude. That's all we're doing.
You should be advocating for well-being instead of liberty. Who cares? No one cares about liberty per se. That's why
I care about liberty.
They don't even care about the non-aggression principle.
You always say no one does, but we know lots of people who do.
Hey, in fact, we're surrounded by people who care about liberty.
Why do you guys continue to stay in the United States when you know your tax dollars and trading with people whose tax dollars go to help fund killing brown babies? Why do you stay in that system?
Because you said you were going to pay for us to leave, and we still haven't seen a check.
I guarantee. Give me an escrow account.
No, we're not giving you anything. You got to provide the money.
Where will you go? Where will you go?
I think requiring escrow that's reasonable. We'll take that into consideration. Skeeter, thanks for the call. I guess.
Entertaining call.
He's always rather high-strung. We're going to go to New Mexico where we have a surprise caller. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live.
Thank you. Yeah, just thanks for taking my call. So, what do you guys think about the debate, the presidential?
I didn't have time to listen to it today or yesterday. I was busy doing other things.
I listened to a bit of it, and apparently the part that I listened to was all that anyone listened to, because that's all I heard, like everything that made headlines. What I heard was, in reading most reviews of the debate, right and left believe that J.D. Vance probably did a better job and came across better than whatever the angry white guy is. What's his name?
Well,
What's his name, Sarah?
I think Rolf. I'm still trying to get it up. Yeah, but I mean, how could such a liar, I mean, make himself out to be the winner? It's just perceived as him doing a better job. It's just completely
Isn't
baffles
this
me.
all this whole thing is about is perception? Isn't this the whole story? Is it's all how we perceive the experience of these people arguing with each other?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But he blames Kamala and Biden was in office, and nothing is the way that she claimed it to be. Well, do they know that the Republicans, don't they have the House, the Senate, they're the majority? They stopped all the things that the Biden and Kamala tried to do. They're the House of Representatives. They stopped them for everything.
Well, when did the House flip back? That was during Biden, was it not? The House.
I don't know who is the. There's quite a bit of Republicans in the Senate that stopped everything from happening.
Well,
They
no,
try to do-
the Democrats have controlled the Senate for the last 4 years.
The Republicans are controlling the House right now. I
Right.
believe.
So
Right. So there you go.
in government, the Democrats own 2 out of 3.
Yeah, but I mean, they tried. But I do believe that if Trump does get elected, it'll be really worse. He's gonna squash all of the social safety net and the medical things that benefit
Sarah.
most of the people.
Sarah, he was in office for 4 years. He could have done that during those 4 years. How come he didn't do it?
Well, wait a minute. So the Senate, didn't he try, and it got all bangled up, botched up in the House that the Republicans took, and they stopped him?
Well,
Then all
nobody.
we're talking about is
Here-
gridlock. Just gridlock. It can't go anywhere because it votes right down the middle.
And I
It doesn't
love
get-
gridlock. I love it when
Me too.
nothing can
Me too,
get
Chris.
enacted by
I-
either side.
I
That,
love
to
it.
me, is the best form of government.
Oh yeah, gridlock is the best form of government because these people aren't even doing anything. It's so great. We don't have to worry about them doing anything and messing up our lives even more.
Yeah, and it's going to be bad either way. I kind of think Trump will be funnier. That's about all I can say about it.
Yeah.
That's
But
so
don't
you
you
would
think Trump's gonna? Go ahead.
no, please.
Yeah.
No,
Well, but I do. You know what? I do see a difference between like the worst evil and the lesser evil. Like
They're-
that
they're both
$35
evil, though.
per.
you're still voting
Yeah,
for
but
evil.
what do you want? You want to get screwed up worse? Or
I want
screwed
not
bad?
evil. How about that?
Can we vote for not evil? Or
Nope,
is not
that's not on the
voting-
menu.
Not voting
That's
is
not on
not
the menu,
voting
thank
for
you.
evil.
Well, look, you're libertarian, all that head. It's like it's not on the menu. Whatever you vote for, you're libertarian or Green People Party.
I don't
It's
vote.
not going to make it.
Yeah, we're not going to vote.
Yeah, you're better off not voting because it's like your vote is just worthless. Well, I think it matters to keep Trump out.
No.
that
Who
is
does it matter
horrific.
to though? Like there are people around you that love Trump that think he's going to do such a great job.
And they're not going to get what they want. They're going to believe
No.
a politician, and they think they're going to get what they want.
Yeah, and you got 2 different flavors of the same thing going on there. Trump's
Yeah, but that's
part of
that's
that
the
same
illusion
deep
that
state
Pence
club.
is a good liar. Like he was like, oh, he's a winner because he lied very well. He just completely lying.
That's the job. I
That's
think
the
it says it
job.
right in the job
Man.
description.
Yeah.
You have to lie to your constituents.
Well, he must be convincing because a lot of people think he's like the winner. He was well convincing and everything because he's so good at lying.
Well, I don't really know much about all of this, but one thing I have heard is the candidate that you advocate for has said, "I won't take your guns away. Look, I have a gun." and has also said, "Oh, I will absolutely take the guns away." So one of those has to be a lie,
Right. So
therefore,
which
liar.
one? So yeah, and that's the thing. We just see both sides as untrustworthy. I don't trust either of them.
Mm-hmm. But but here's the thing. They were having they were saying that Vince said that the Haitians were illegals according to his belief, because they became legal because of the Kamala made them illegal.
I don't think any humans are illegal.
I don't think even people I disagree with.
I agree.
They are
there aren't illegal humans in the world.
Well, the boss said that they were legal because they passed a law that allowed those immigrants in here.
And laws are just opinions, Sarah. They're opinions backed up by guns.
Ben said that they were illegal because they were illegally undocumented because the law that Kamala passed was unwarranted. And then the boss said it is legal because it was passed in the Congress and the president signed for it. So I don't know what status they had, but they were legal. So it's like a rushed status of an emergency refugee status that they gave Haitians or whatever.
I remember that discussion last night. Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know. I know that Trump is not going to be able to deport everyone he wants to deport. I know that Kamala, if elected, is not going to get her $25,000 for every person who wants a house to buy a house. That's not going to happen. These are campaign promises that can't be made. I just hope that the damage caused by whoever wins this election doesn't hurt me too badly. That's it. I just hope that it isn't too painful for me and for other people I know, including you, Sarah. I just hope
that's the thing. It's less painful with the Democrats. That's my argument. You're better off if you're not going to vote, go out and vote for Kamala. That's less painful. It makes the common average people happier.
The common average people. So I've grown, I've lived through times of great prosperity, and I've grown through hard times too. Most of those times of great prosperity were under Republicans. Not all of them, but that's a fact. How do you answer that? How do you answer that most people in the United States have put more faith in a good economy with Republican presidents than they do with Democrat presidents?
That is absurd. That is just unbelievable, because the Republicans they're talking about putting able-bodied people to work. That's their whole thing. What they're saying is that all the people that are poor. Well, my argument is most of the people that are homeless are mentally ill, and they slept in a cardboard box on a concrete next to a freeway with one eye open and one eye closed. I don't know how they're going to get these people to work. Have you, being homeless, they got 5 bags and a bedroll. You're looking to stuff around. Haven't had a bath for 5 days. You got stinky clothes. I don't know how they're going to put these people to work and show up and make them do what.
So what is your solution? Is your solution just to pay for them to live for the rest of their lives?
Well, it depends on, but you know what? It shouldn't be forced. Like, I stand on a street corner and I'm doing county clerk work. I was waving around 243 boat sign, and a lot of people were honking and they were cheering me on.
Did you get paid per honk?
I'm just a volunteer. Well, they were excited. Some of them said, thank you for putting out the phone number for them to read on a street corner. So that's technically, I'm an unpaid county clerk. It's a county clerk job.
You should run
for county clerk. Run for government office, Sarah.
Absolutely, and then you can become part of the problem. Hey, Sarah, thanks for your call. I appreciate it. I know Sarah really appreciates all the money she gets for not doing anything.
Well, I actually like Sarah's calls because
I do too.
She brings good, interesting ways for us to discuss things to the table. That being said, I do not believe that she's going about her life in an ethical way. She wants someone to pay for her. And she wants to force that someone to pay for her. I have no problem with safety nets or safety nets. I don't like the government, but if safety nets are going to be provided by the government, okay. The issue for me is when people are dependent on these things for the rest of their lives. Like if they can hold a job or hold a conversation, like Sarah, she could probably work 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday. So, maybe 10 hours a week, doing meaningful work that actually she's trading somebody her labor and getting money in return. Instead, she chooses to wave vote signs around and promote the government.
At least an hour of every day waiting on hold for talk radio shows. So that's something. Doesn't provide any real value other than maybe it provides this show with some value. I don't know. But I don't know. There have always been social safety nets. That's the thing. We didn't need government to create them. They existed in churches and they existed in communities. This is not something that had never existed before. But the idea was there would be a safety net to catch people when they fall. It would not be a safety net that transformed itself into a safety hammock where you could just lie comfortably for the rest of your lives. And that's the trap that too many people like Sarah fall into. And when you talk about human rights, that's what Sarah thinks of. And that is really, it's frustrating. It saddens me when people devolve to that point that they can't see their own value.
It's a dangerous situation to be in as well, because
right.
if Big Daddy Cheese quits holding out his hand, what's Sarah gonna do?
Right.
She's in a world of trouble at that point because she's got no ambition or no practice.
Yeah, if Big Daddy Cheese, as you put it, Stu, suddenly has no money and they can't pay anybody, there's gonna be revolts in the street.
Yeah, it will be, and it'll be a mass die-off.
That's why when people, there are a lot of different opinions about welfare, whether you should take it or not take it. My opinion on that is that you should not take it if you need it, but if you don't need it, go ahead.
I like that. That's not funny. A bad point of view.
If you need it though, you better figure out a better way.
Right. Yeah. You've got more issues than the fact that you can't buy your smokes.
Yep.
We got a story here which is interesting. Well, I thought, and Stu thought. FCC approves controversial radio station deal involving Soros-backed group. I'm not sure where this is going. We're going to get into it and see where. Federal Communications Commission has approved a controversial deal. It gives control of more than 200 radio stations to a group funded by Democratic megadonor George Soros. Some of these stations are in Texas. Republicans in Congress are calling it an attempt to interfere with the election, and the House Oversight Committee is investigating how the FCC handled the deal. I'm hearing barking. Is that?
That's probably from outside.
I think it's outside.
Okay, just checking.
It's not from you, and it's not from me. So,
Stu, quit barking over there.
I am sorry.
We'll get into this in a little bit more later about Soros buying up radio stations. Who knows? Maybe Free Talk Live will be on some of them.
That'd be cool.
603-283-6160 is our phone number. Give us a call. This is Free Talk Live.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Tired of the ever-inflating US dollar? You can live your life on Dash instead with some handy websites. BitRefill.com has been accepting Dash for years and has a ton of big-name retailers and brands including grocers, gas stations, phone refills, Amazon, and even prepaid MasterCards. Plus, many of their gift cards are available at a discount. But what about paying your bills? Spritz.finance can do that, and they can send dollars to your bank account in case you still need those for some reason. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at dash.org. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. The United Nations Security Council members have voiced concern over the escalating tensions in the Middle East. The Council convened an emergency session on Wednesday following Iran's missile attack on Israel on Tuesday. Jody Jacobs reports from the United Nations in New York.
It was another intense session of the UN Security Council on Wednesday, with Israel insisting Iran will pay the ultimate price for its attack.
Israel will defend itself.
But this did not go down well with Iran. Its ambassador to the UN, Amir Sahid Arafani, maintaining the attack was out of necessity and a proportionate response to Israel's continued aggression in the region.
Israeli must understand that each act of aggression it makes, it's not unpunished.
The United States has pledged its full support to Israel.
The United States is fully supportive of Israel.
Fears are mounting here in New York of a potential all-out regional war, something that has the UN Secretary General worried. Antonio Guterres saying this deadly cycle of tit-for-tat violence must stop.
A California doctor has pleaded guilty to conspiring to distribute the drug ketamine in connection to the death of actor Matthew Perry. The Friends star was found dead in his hot tub last year after a ketamine overdose. From California, Ira Spitzer has more.
Mark Chavez pleaded guilty in a Los Angeles courtroom, admitting to diverting ketamine from his clinic to another doctor, who then sold the drug to Matthew Perry. Chavez entered the plea as part of a cooperation agreement with authorities and faces a maximum sentence of 10 years. The Friends star, who was 54 years old when he died last October, had become addicted to the drug, which is sometimes legally used to treat depression. 5 people have been charged over Perry's death, and 3 of them, including Chavez and Perry's former assistant, have agreed to plea deals. The other 2 have pleaded not guilty and are awaiting trial.
US President Joe Biden has visited North and South Carolina, while Vice President Kamala Harris is going to neighboring Georgia after the region was pummeled by Hurricane Helene. The president announced the deployment of an additional 1,000 active duty soldiers to bolster rescue and recovery efforts. They join more than 10,000 National Guard and federal aid workers already spread out across the southeastern U.S. At least 175 people are now known to have been killed by Hurricane Helene. Hundreds of others remain missing. Thousands of U.S. dock workers are on strike for a second day in a dispute over pay and the move towards automation. Economists fear the disruption could impact the U.S. economy and global supply chains. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160 is the number to call to get on the air, to take control of the airwaves, to tell us what's on your mind, what's important to you. In the studio, it's myself, Chris, Stu,
and Riley.
And we have just gotten into this discussion about this big purchase in radio by everybody's favorite boogeyman, George Soros.
How did George Soros become such a boogeyman, though?
I think it was from Rush Limbaugh talking about him.
I think that's where he gained most of his notoriety. But
yeah,
he's very, very wealthy, and he tends to support lots of Democrat candidates and Democrat programs. And so he's just, I think, just kind of the face of progressivism and big money. I think that's what a lot of people see him as on the right. For a lot of candidates, they probably see him as
a philanthropist.
Big bucks to win your congressional campaigns or your presidential campaigns or whatever. Soros has his money involved. This story is about, it's coming to us out of Texas, but I'm sure it's getting press other places too. The FCC just approved a controversial deal that gives control of more than 200 radio stations to a group funded by Democratic mega donor George Soros. Republicans in Congress are calling it an attempt to interfere in the election, and the House Oversight Committee is investigating how the FCC handled the deal. And this is coming to us from an NBC affiliate in Texas. The News 4 I-Team interviewed one of the FCC commissioners who opposed the move. He says approval was fast-tracked in a way that the FCC has not done before. In the complex deal, a nonprofit funded by billionaire George Soros is taking over the radio station licenses of Odyssey, Inc., a broadcast company that's been in bankruptcy. Quote, this George Soros-backed group filed an application with the FCC to get us to approve their purchase of about 200 local radio stations across 40 different markets across the country, unquote, said FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr. Carr says whenever foreign ownership is involved, the process takes months so that national security agencies can do a review. Quote, it's very much out of the ordinary. We'll be creating a special shortcut just for this one entity that is backed ultimately by this George Soros group, unquote, Carr said. In a letter Friday, the House Oversight Committee accused FCC Chairwoman Jessica Rosenworcel, that's a tongue twister, and other commissioners of, quote, bypassing an established process to do a favor for George Soros and facilitate his influence over hundreds of radio stations before the November election, unquote. The FCC order says the nonprofit called Fund for Policy Reform is governed by 4 trustees who are all U.S. citizens, one of whom is George Soros' son, Alexander Soros. In a statement, the FCC chairman says her agency used the identical process it has in other recent cases where a company is emerging from bankruptcy, and that suggesting otherwise is, quote, cynical and wrong. I don't know. It kind of makes one wonder when suddenly this deal gets fast-tracked by the FCC involving such a large number of radio stations in October. Could this be an October surprise?
Probably.
It wouldn't be the first time that one's been pulled when something major happens during the final days of the U.S. elections. And I don't know. There have been lots of October surprises. I mean, this really kind of goes back to, at least in my recollection, the first October surprise I think really I was aware of was in 1980, when just prior to Reagan winning the White House, or maybe it was prior to his inauguration, I don't know, but Iran agreed to release the hostages that it had taken during the Iranian hostage crisis.
Yeah, during that, they actually worked out a deal for Iran to hold on to those hostages a little bit longer.
Oh, did
so
they?
So that they could bring it out for the presidential election.
Oh, my God. That's insane.
Absolutely. That's the kind of stuff they'll do.
That's the kind of stuff they'll do. And this shouldn't surprise anyone. This happens to be, the most renowned and beloved American Republican president of modern times.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there were lots of things that happened during Reagan that were, one could say underhanded.
Crack cocaine much?
Well, you had to fund those Contras somehow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or not.
The one that I've come close to talking about this, and I don't think I'm in any risk of talking about it, but the worst one for me that happened under Reagan, because I was in the military at the time, was KAL 007. Do you ever hear of this one?
No.
Okay. So way back in the day, I think this happened in 82. A Korean airliner was on its way from Alaska to Seoul, North Korea, and its flight path takes it alongside of Russia and over Japan on down to down into the Korean Peninsula, and that's where it was supposed to land. This plane got shot down by the Russians because it had strayed into Russian airspace.
Yeah.
And the pilot, of course, the United States and every country on earth was up in arms about how dare these dirty Ruskies kill hundreds of passengers, including a U.S. congressman who happened to be on that flight. And the United States made big noises and renounced Russia. And the Russians said from the beginning there were 2 aircraft up there. There was another aircraft that we suspected was a spy plane.
Oh.
That was mirroring this aircraft.
Interesting.
Coincidentally, the United States did have an RC-135 aircraft, quote, in the area.
Yeah.
So the reason I've been reluctant to talk about this is I had a friend while I was in the military who shall remain nameless, who was aware of conversations taking place between U.S. personnel, the RC-135 spy plane that was mirroring the path of this commercial aircraft the entire trip all the way from Alaska, because this was the plan. The only way that the U.S. could get good intelligence on Russian air defenses on the far east coast of Russia around Vladivostok and places like that was to set off the radar. You had to set off the radar, and you had to have the RC-135 up there to gather all the intelligence on what they were using and what they were doing. So this plan was concocted to breach Russian airspace and let the Russians see that it was a commercial aircraft, thinking there is no way Russia would shoot down a commercial aircraft.
So did they shoot it down or no?
They did.
Oh.
There were accusations. I think the Russians came out and said that, they scrambled fighters immediately, and one of their pilots, the scapegoat, was said to have been drinking before that, a little Russian vodka, but he splashed this commercial aircraft with over 100, I think it was 176 or 196 innocent people who were just trying to fly home to Seoul, North Korea, or fly to Seoul, North Korea, were murdered, died, blasted out of the sky at a very high altitude, because the United States really wanted more information on Russian air defenses on their coast.
Yep.
So this was all put in place exactly on purpose. And that's when I decided I didn't want to work for the U.S. government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An employer like that, I think I'd have to quit too.
Man.
Yeah.
If they're going to lie like that, absolutely.
And it kept up. They kept on, accusing Russia of this horrible crime against humanity. And I'm sitting there going, but we did this.
Yeah.
We did this on purpose.
Oh, yeah.
We caused these deaths. Their deaths are on Ronald Reagan's hands. Commander in chief, right? Everything buck stops here.
Yeah, I'm sure he signed the BOK on that. That was one of the problems they had with Kennedy, I think, is he wouldn't give the go ahead on Northwoods and things like that.
Right. And after, let me explain my caveat on this. This guy was transferred shortly after this happened. It wasn't more than a month or two after it happened, and he ended up being stationed where I was stationed. And he told me this story in tears.
Yeah.
I have no reason to doubt him, and it wasn't the time of conspiracy theories. That was nothing anybody ever really talked about. But I don't doubt him for a second. I don't doubt this story for a moment. And if you go to Wikipedia, you can read about KAL-007, and they have a whole bunch of articles on possible conspiracies and things like that. And, I don't know that any of them describe it as it was described to me. So I think there are a lot of people kind of on the right path, but the long and the short of it was the U.S. government who killed people, and I have a real problem with that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Would it surprise me that there's going to be an October surprise in our elections? Heck no. That wouldn't surprise me at all. We've done stuff like, at the last minute, send in a bunch of Navy SEALs into Iran to try to get back our people. That was an election stunt too. That one failed miserably, and a lot of U.S. servicemen died when helicopters tried to land in a very sandy place, which sand and helicopter engines don't really get along well together. And there have been lots of examples of us trying to do things to sway things in one direction or the other. I just can't imagine things worse than causing the death of innocent people and loss of human life. But so that was my show and tell for tonight.
Well, thanks for showing and telling.
Yeah.
Just shows that Reagan isn't the great guy that many people think he is.
Yeah, and I'm despite all that, I can say economically, a lot of people made a lot of money during Reagan, and Reagan really brought in that era of, easy money, and brought the monetarists to power in economics, and showed that, if you've got a Fed chairman who's willing to do the really hard things, you can kind of put the brakes on a recession and things like that. Paul Volcker, who, like Ron Paul said, he's what he felt was the best Fed chairman ever, because he was willing to raise interest rates to 18-25%. Nobody else has done that.
Yeah, could you imagine them doing that right now?
There'd be outrage.
Yeah, they couldn't, and they know it. On the flip side of that, when they do raise rates that high, who benefits? It helps the economy in the long term, but immediately banks.
No, yeah. Well, those guys make out well both directions.
Yeah, they definitely do, and the bankers get rich no matter what.
If it's going up or down, we're going to make bank off of that. Make bank. Ha ha.
Yep.
We're going to go to another story that Riley brought in. California sues Catholic hospital for denying abortions. What do you mean they denied abortions? You can't do that.
I mean, apparently a Catholic hospital can. Or
what are they relying on? Morals and their strongly held beliefs?
Yeah, they are.
What role does that play in the abortion debate?
A lot of religious people oppose abortions and oppose, committing abortions. And I'm fine with that. I think people have the religious right to decide, I don't want to have or condone an abortion or commit an abortion. And essentially this Catholic hospital said, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to give this person an abortion. And so the people calling themselves the state of California decided, hey, you can't do that because our magic words written on paper say you can't. Well, yet, the First Amendment to the United States Constitution says that we have the freedom of religion.
Yeah.
And
what happened to that one?
I don't know.
We'll get into that in just a moment. First, we're going to go to the phones where we've got Paul. Paul, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi there.
How are you?
Good to be live. Anyway, I was just catching up on some of your earlier broadcasts, and actually I haven't really been. I just tuned in this evening. Usually I end up by the time we're done with dinner, your show's over. So anyway,
I'm glad you could join us.
Yeah. Well, great. I want to change the subject,
please,
and I want to talk about a book. Okay, that is online, and this is not a paid announcement. Okay. But I think you and your listeners would find it extremely fascinating to check out this book by Tim Urban called What's Our Problem? A Self-Help Book for Societies. And it's on a website called waitbutwhy.com. And it's probably the most amazing look at society, and it uses what's the word? Examples of. I'm lost the word. Not simile, but there's another word for a
metaphorical.
Metaphor or parable.
Metaphor. Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you. Yeah, that's good. And it takes it encompasses human thought, it encompasses politics, it encompasses a bunch of stuff, and it just does an amazing job. Like the political spectrum, goes from left to right. Okay. That's something that we've dealt with for years. And then the libertarians made a diamond out of it. They said, okay, well, you got left and right, then you got up and down, and the down is total anarchy, tyranny, and the top is total anarchy. Well, what Tim's done, he's added a vertical dimension, which doesn't refer to government. It refers to your thought process.
Okay.
And he starts out with how humans evolve over the millennia, centuries, hundreds, thousands, and millions of years. You've got this animal, this brain, this very basic, primitive mind. Okay, that is carried forward into the present because it's enabled us to survive all of the problems. In other words, we're here as the last in a chain of millions of generations.
This is true.
There's stuff in that basic brain that has tremendous value, but it also is stuck on the past. And modern humans have a intelligence on top. Okay, it's the thinking, it's the advanced brain.
Well,
and this is the one that can
modern people.
Yes, yeah, and it can look at the big picture and think and consider and go, okay, well, let's see, let's plan ahead, let's do future, Whereas the primitive brain just wants, I want what I want right now.
Right.
Okay, and so as long as the top brain is in charge, it runs control over the bottom brain, because sometimes the bottom brain is doing things that it's supposed to do, like eating and sex, and these are important things that the bottom brain does,
Sure.
But the top brain has to go, okay, well, that's not appropriate right now. Well, we have to do this. And so what he's doing is he's taken these two continuum, the left-right political spectrum and the top-bottom mental spectrum, and weaves this incredible story about how, and then he equates it into the history of mankind and up to the present day political situation. Anyway, I find it fascinating. The website's called waitbutwhy.com.
What's the name of the book again?
And if you go to that,
What's Our Problem?
The name of the book is called What's Our Problem? A Self-Help Book for Societies. It's kind of whimsical. He's got these little stick figure, drawings on it and stuff, but it's just incredibly useful.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We'll put a link to that in our show notes, but I'll definitely check it out. Pretty much because I'm a reading junkie, and if anybody suggests almost anything, I'm more than likely going to read it. It sounds intriguing. Paul, thank you so much for the call and for the book recommendation.
Yeah, for sure.
Take care, man.
All
right. So I definitely understand what he's saying. What I'm interested in is what role left and right can possibly play and how it would fit into that grid. Personally, I'm not sure that I believe that there is a left and right, but hey, I'll read it and see what he thinks. What do you think? Riley, opinion?
Well, people like to say there's left and right. I think the idea of a diamond makes more sense because, you have the top being liberty or anarchy and the bottom being authoritarianism. But people shift over time. They're not always the same person. So they're going to shift from bottom to top, left to right, whatever. And I don't think we can just put people on the left or the right because we're nuanced. We're not the same person.
Riley, Americans, we are not smart people. We can understand Coke and Pepsi. You like Coke or you like Pepsi.
That's because people have been dumbed down by the television and the media.
But if you cannot involve more than two choices. You have ketchup and mustard. You have salt and pepper. You can only handle these binary choices.
That's cult-like thinking, dude.
No, that's as far as my mind goes.
Then you've been brainwashed by a cult to think that way.
I believe that.
Yep, so, I think we all were.
Yeah, we all were, and now we're all, at least those of us in this room, are trying to unlearn everything we've been taught.
It's really hard to unlearn these things because we hear about it all the time, and we interact with people still in the same cult all the time, and it's like, how do we unlearn this and teach our children to unlearn this as well as we're unlearning it? And it's really, really challenging.
Riley, I know I've brought this up with you. Have you ever read The Moon is a Harsh Mistress by Robert Heinlein?
No. I have not.
Okay. I'm reading it again. I think this might be the second or third time I've reread this book because it is such a great libertarian manifesto. 603-283-6160 is our number. We'll be back. This is Free Talk Live.
Frustrated with his increased workload and a litany of interpersonal problems, CLG software project manager William Garston brought a list of grievances Thursday to his supervisor Todd Watkins, an utterly powerless office functionary with no actual ability to resolve any problems.
Oh, no. I'm really glad that you're bringing this to me. This is great.
The 15-minute interaction, which was taken seriously by both parties, involved Garston laying out a series of work-related issues he's had recently, absolutely none of which Watkins has even the slightest authority to address.
Again, I'm sorry to be bothering you with all this stuff, Todd. I've reached a point where I was not under the... This is important. We're gonna sort all this out.
Sources added that throughout the conversation, Watkins continually nodded his head and repeatedly assured Garston that his problems would be considered a top priority, despite the fact that he lacked the necessary clout to foster any change whatsoever within the company.
This is the Onion News Network.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. The United Nations Security Council members have voiced concern over the escalating tensions in the Middle East. The Council convened an emergency session on Wednesday following Iran's missile attack on Israel on Tuesday. Jody Jacobs reports from the United Nations in New York.
It was another intense session of the UN Security Council on Wednesday, with Israel insisting Iran will pay the ultimate price for its attack.
Israel will defend itself.
But this did not go down well with Iran. Its ambassador to the UN, Amir Sahid Arafani, maintaining the attack was out of necessity and a proportionate response to Israel's continued aggression in the region.
Israeli must understand that each act of aggression it makes, it's not unpunished.
The United States has pledged its full support to Israel.
The United States is fully supportive of Israel.
Fears are mounting here in New York of a potential all-out regional war, something that has the UN Secretary General worried. Antonio Guterres saying this deadly cycle of tit-for-tat violence must stop.
A California doctor has pleaded guilty to conspiring to distribute the drug ketamine in connection to the death of actor Matthew Perry. The Friends star was found dead in his hot tub last year after a ketamine overdose. From California, Ira Spitzer has more.
Mark Chavez pleaded guilty in a Los Angeles courtroom, admitting to diverting ketamine from his clinic to another doctor, who then sold the drug to Matthew Perry. Chavez entered the plea as part of a cooperation agreement with authorities and faces a maximum sentence of 10 years. The Friends star, who was 54 years old when he died last October, had become addicted to the drug, which is sometimes legally used to treat depression. 5 people have been charged over Perry's death, and 3 of them, including Chavez and Perry's former assistant, have agreed to plea deals. The other 2 have pleaded not guilty and are awaiting trial.
US President Joe Biden has visited North and South Carolina, while Vice President Kamala Harris is going to neighboring Georgia after the region was pummeled by Hurricane Helene. The president announced the deployment of an additional 1,000 active duty soldiers to bolster rescue and recovery efforts. They join more than 10,000 National Guard and federal aid workers already spread out across the southeastern U.S. At least 175 people are now known to have been killed by Hurricane Helene. Hundreds of others remain missing. Thousands of U.S. dock workers are on strike for a second day in a dispute over pay and the move towards automation. Economists fear the disruption could impact the U.S. economy and global supply chains. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. What happens next in the Middle East after Israel, backed militarily by the US, fought back against a barrage of Iranian missiles fired at the country on Tuesday? Israel is threatening reprisals, so is the United States. Alistair Burt is a former British Foreign Office minister who used to have responsibility for the Middle East.
Everybody can have all sorts of plans, but once attacks start, then it is true, and most military people would tell you that as soon as combat is started, things can go out of control very quickly. What has changed is the tit-for-tat that there has been between Hezbollah and Israel for some time. Israel has got tired of that, has escalated the situation to remove what it considers to be the danger to northern Israel and its maybe 60,000 displaced people to try and clear the danger. The risk for it is it may not be able to achieve this objective, and that Hezbollah may find its allies wanting to come in on its side. But that implies risks to all of them. So we may still be in a situation where people are not quite prepared to make a commitment to something which would genuinely be catastrophic.
The US government says it's going to make it easier for American citizens in Lebanon to leave the country, booking more flights for them to get out of the country. Tuesday's events only seem to underscore the sense that the region remains a tinderbox. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
Our main news again. The UN Security Council has voiced concern over the escalating tensions in the Middle East. A California doctor has pleaded guilty to conspiring to distribute the drug ketamine in connection to the death of actor Matthew Perry. And US President Joe Biden has visited North and South Carolina, while Vice President Kamala Harris is going to neighbouring Georgia after the region was pummeled by Hurricane Helene. And that's the latest feature story news. Kate Fisher reporting.
And if you thought things couldn't get more infantile and aesthetically insulting than Fergie, Kesha, or Katy Perry, then you obviously haven't met 22-year-old Karonica, the latest and most horrid, talent-bereft pop monstrosity the music industry has ever sadistically forced down the American public's collective throat. She's here with us in the studio right now.
What?
Now tell us, Karonica, how did you first decide that you wanted to be the cipher through which the cynicism of a morally bankrupt industry is channeled?
Yo, I just do what I do. Know what I'm saying? It's like people just love my ish.
Right. You are in the middle of your sold-out Damn Girl tour.
Damn girl, that's right.
Which is a heinous slap in the face to the English language, and will also travel to 47 cities, sapping the intellects of every young person along the way.
I said, damn girl, that's right.
There's no light in your eyes, Karonica.
I got nothing to say to the haters.
I hate you.
This is the Onion News Network.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. 603-283-6160 is our call-in number. That's the number to get on the phone and take control of the airwaves. In studio tonight, it's myself, Chris,
Stu,
and Riley.
And we have been talking about all kinds of stuff. We have been talking about the presidential we haven't talked about the election because we don't really want to, but people keep bringing up.
People in our circle keep wanting to talk about it, so we talk about it.
Yeah,
we also talked about the strike going on, the port strike, and the longshoremen and the unions, and how we believe that people should be free to unionize, but don't force your union on me.
And everything wrong with the National Labor Relations Act, which pretty much bastardized the idea of unions in the United States, and we are still suffering the consequences over 100 years later. Thank you, progressive era of American politics. We're going to the phones where we've got David in New Mexico. David, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, I want a couple things that you guys said. First off, I find it interesting. You ever heard of a triple wide?
A triple wide? More than a double wide? Wow, this is big.
Yeah.
How do you transport it? I guess in 3 pieces.
Yeah. What you do is you go on Craigslist, and you look up. You look for free. Pardon?
Step 1: go on Craigslist.
You look for free. You look for people who want to get them off their property. These 40, 50-year-old single wides.
Okay.
From the 1970s. That are like 60 feet wide and 14 feet, 60 feet long. 40, well, it could be 60 feet wide, 14 feet long.
It depends on how you look at it.
Yeah. And they want them off their property because they're sick of looking at it, and the wife is making the husband's life miserable till he gets it the heck out of there.
Right.
So you go on Craigslist and you find one, and then you pay your buddies that run a trucking company to drag it onto the couple acres that you bought. And then you keep looking on Craigslist and you find another one and you drag that one next to it and you got a double wide. And then you keep looking one more time and you get a third single wide and you drag it next to the other 2 and then you got a triple wide.
Nice.
That'll work, but you're going to need some additional lumber to build an over roof for all 3 of them because otherwise you're just going to have a flat roof.
Yeah. Exactly. It's gonna be entertaining watching them keep it up, maintain it.
Is one of your neighbors doing this, David?
Yeah, I got like no neighbors anywhere like close, except for the one that bought the property, touching my property, and then they drag in the Mexican. I'm sorry, the triple wide.
You are inflecting a bit of a Latin accent.
Yeah,
you tell this
Latino.
story.
I can't help it. This is how I talk when they call the cops on me today. This is how I talk to the police officer also, and I'm not kidding.
Oh,
Si, senor.
man.
Huh?
So what's wrong with the triple wide?
Well, I thought no. The police officer, that's important actually. I thought I would get. I even said that to him. I was talking to him like this, and I said, and I thought I was doing it because I thought I would get better treatment. Less discriminatory.
Okay.
Yeah,
How'd that work out for you?
Worked out fine.
Oh.
But his name Gilbert Padilla, the deputy from the county that I live in. I know him. I talked to him on the phone many times. Gilbert Padilla.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not Gilbert. He's not the Padilla from Albuquerque, the Los Paz gang. The Los Padillas. He's not a Los Paz gang member though. Not that I know of.
So this guy's your neighbor, but do they own the land?
It's a chick. It's a Mexican chick. She got the Mexican flag tattooed on her arm.
I remember this. But this is land you don't own. You're just objecting to them doing this?
Well, when you in Rome, you do like the Romans. So when you move to the middle of nowhere and there's like all kinds of open land, and then you decide to buy acres right next to a guy who's been there before everybody else, and then you start telling him how to live his life. That may be not a good idea. That's not right. Doesn't seem right.
Yeah, I hear you. So what are they just complaining constantly?
They call the cops on me. They say I'm harassing them, stalking them.
Did they chase away Templeton?
No, Templeton right here.
Okay.
Oh, man.
What did they allege your actions were for harassing and stalking?
I was looking at them because I was looking at them when they drive by. I was harassing them because I look at them.
Oh, David, how dare you?
Yeah, looking at people, David.
Did you ask their permission before you looked at them?
I was probably mad dogging them, because you can get shot for that. You in downtown Albuquerque, you mad dog somebody, you look at them,
Yeah,
and then
Southwest,
the guy
for sure.
shoots you, and then the cops come and they say, "Why did you shoot him?" And he said, "Well, because he looked at me."
This is your crime.
Yeah. I'm harassing them because I was looking at them. That's what they told the police.
So I do believe there are societal norms, and maybe you're not following what the societal norms have evolved into in your
What you mean?
particular area.
Wait a minute. So, well, that's what the Mexican illegal said to me. He quote, "Yeah, there are going to be other people moving in here. Get used to it. Get used to it, Tringo."
And
That's
now
what they
you're
said.
looking at New Hampshire.
Huh?
And now you're looking at New Hampshire.
Going to go deep in the woods where the Mexican can't find me.
I was so hoping you were going to bring up something like this that didn't involve asking us for advice on building a triple wide in New Hampshire.
What you were hoping that I was? What were you hoping?
I was hoping you were not calling for advice on building a triple wide in New Hampshire.
No, I know how to do it. I know how to do that already. See, because I watched the Mexican do it, man. I know how to do it.
It's a little different in New Hampshire, though. Man, the moisture would get right in there and destroy things.
Yep.
You're going to have to put a roof on it if you do it here.
Yeah.
Who cares? It's a Mexican triple wide, man. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be nice or anything, man.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Well, I mean, we do have trailers up here, and our trailers get hit by tornadoes too. I mean, that's a crazy thing.
Yep.
New
Well,
Hampshire
why
doesn't
can't
have
anyone
like
get
a.
hit by a tornado. We need tornado here.
You have floods and fires, man.
Well, we got floods too, and unfortunately, they just missed the arroyo. They almost put the trailer in the arroyo, but they missed the arroyo by 20, 30 feet, and so when it storms, the river that flows in the arroyo missed their trailer by their triple wide by 20, 30 feet. 20, 30 feet over, they'd be in the arroyo. They'd be flooded away.
Well, that'd be entertaining.
Yeah.
That would be fun. Yeah, it would be Noah's Ark with all the goats in there, the goats and the chickens.
Yeah.
They go floating down the arroyo like Noah's Ark.
Oh, well.
Oh, man. I don't know what to tell you, man. It sounds like you need to move.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think I will take you up on that idea. I'm glad you thought of that.
Well, I mean,
Move somewhere
many
cold.
calls can we take from you complaining about your neighbors? And it doesn't sound like they're going anywhere.
Except for when I moved to New Hampshire, and then I meet some crazy guy in the woods that isn't me, and then I have to complain about him.
Well, maybe people will start complaining about you, David. Watch out.
Right.
Maybe
Well,
the Mexicans will just find you
They
here.
have to fight. No, it won't happen because they have to find me first. They won't find me.
Go
I'll be hidden in the woods. They won't find me.
Go that deep.
Either I'll be out on the ocean. They won't find me.
You'll be good either way. Dave,
Either way, I'm covered, man.
well, David, I hope you get along with your neighbors as long as you have to, and then I hope you find new neighbors, and I hope they treat you better. David, thanks for
Viva la Reconquista! Viva la Reconquista! La Raza!
Get that?
I have no idea what
I'm just sitting here hoping he's not cursing in Spanish, and I couldn't pick it
No,
up.
I said long live the Reconquest.
Okay.
That's what I thought you said.
Long live the Reconquest.
And you said the race.
La Raza. It's a legitimate political group. La Raza. I didn't swear in Mexican.
I appreciate that. David,
Or
thanks.
Chicano.
There
or
we go.
Spanish.
Perfect. David, thanks for the call. Yeah, it's not easy to always get along with your neighbors.
Yeah, it's hard.
And David,
People can be really hard getting along with your neighbors, getting along with your friends, your roommates, whatever. It can be.
and
really
David's talked about them a lot, and they sound challenging. And
Yeah.
But if you don't like your neighbors and they own land and they're not going to go anywhere, you have a choice. You can always move yourself, and that's what he keeps talking about. So we'll see if he does that. But I'm not sure that moving really solves this problem, where this was a story we started into right before the break. But this is from Reuters by Brendan Pearson. California sues Catholic hospital for denying emergency abortion. September 30th, Reuters. California's Attorney General on Monday sued a Catholic hospital accused of refusing to provide an emergency abortion in February to a woman whose water broke prematurely, putting her at risk of potentially life-threatening infection and hemorrhage. Democratic Attorney General Rob Bonta occurred Providence St. Joseph Hospital in Eureka of discriminating against pregnant patients and violating the state's law requiring hospitals to provide necessary emergency care. The lawsuit, filed in Humboldt County Superior Court, seeks a court order to stop the hospital from denying medically necessary abortions in the future, as well as civil penalties. Quote, Providence is deeply committed to the health and wellness of women and pregnant patients and provides emergency services to all who walk through our doors in accordance with state and federal law, unquote, a Providence spokesperson said in an email, adding that the hospital was reviewing this lawsuit. Quote, we are heartbroken over Dr. Nussloch's experience earlier this year, unquote. The woman, chiropractor Anna Nussloch, was driven to another hospital 12 miles away and was dangerously hemorrhaging by the time she reached the operating table, according to the lawsuit. Nussloch, who was pregnant with twins, said at a press conference on Monday that doctors at Providence agreed that she needed an abortion to avoid life-threatening complications. However, doctors said that they could not provide one because of the Catholic-affiliated hospital's policy prohibiting any intervention while they could hear, quote, fetal heart tones, unquote, unless her life was in immediate danger, Nussloch added. Before she left for nearby Mad River Community Hospital, a nurse gave her a bucket of towels, quote, in case something happens in the car, unquote, Nussloch said. The hospital's policy, quote, inflicted on me needless, protracted pain, bleeding, and trauma, unquote, Nussloch added. This is just reading the press release, I guess.
My question is, like, how do people know which hospital to go get their baby delivered at or go to? I mean, they should be aware that this is a Catholic hospital, and, you know, Catholics don't believe in abortion, so if they're going to get this kind of treatment at a hospital like a Catholic hospital, maybe they're making mistakes.
Right. Let's see if this answers any of this stuff, because this is just reading like hospital bad.
Yeah.
Bonta says Nussloch's ordeal was reminiscent of women's experiences in Republican-led states where abortion is banned. In California, Bonta added, the law is clear that hospitals must provide an abortion if it is medically necessary. I'm not getting any response from my browser, so bear with me. Here it goes. We need hospitals to follow the law at the bare minimum, Bonta said. That's not too much to ask as a human being. You can see how cruel this was. The case is the latest in a series of legal battles over emergency abortion in the wake of the U.S. Supreme Court's 2022 ruling, which allows states to ban the procedure. For instance, a Kansas woman in July sued the University of Kansas healthcare system for refusing to give her a medically necessary abortion in 2022. The case is pending. The U.S. Supreme Court in June upheld a lower court's ruling that federal law on emergency care overrides Idaho's near total abortion ban in medical emergencies. But litigation over the issue is expected to continue. So yeah, I kind of feel for, of course I feel for the mother. If she was hemorrhaging and all this during a pregnancy, and if her life were at risk, I wish she could do something else. I agree with Riley that if you have a problem involving a pregnancy, going to a Catholic hospital is probably not your best bet.
Yeah.
Understanding that they have their position. I disagree with the idea that any government has the right to impart its perceived morals on a caregiver. And
I agree. And, you know, a Catholic hospital should have a right to say, no, we're not willing to do this procedure, and you can go to this hospital close by.
I get that. I think what the Democrats seem to be trying to make hay out of are these cases where a woman's life was nearly lost because someone refused to give a late-term abortion. And numerically, I imagine I've heard exactly two of these cases of, you know, someone being in medical distress and a state saying no. In other words, I don't believe that this is a regular everyday occurrence that's happening all over America, creating this, you know, catastrophic loss of life due to Roe v. Wade just being turned back to the states.
Yeah, I don't think that the inability to get an abortion is a major problem in this country.
But it's, I mean, from what I hear, I'm only going by what I hear, the right to kill your baby is a human right. It's a natural right. Everyone has the right to kill their baby. If they want to. It's in the Constitution. I heard that. It is protected by the Constitution. It's part of the Bill of Rights.
I must not have read that far.
Yeah, I didn't read that part either.
No. I swear to God, I think it must have been in all those things the way everyone is up in arms. Personally, I've always felt that doing away with Roe v. Wade was good because I don't believe these kinds of decisions can be made for a nation of 338 million people.
I agree.
All at once by one court ruling. I believe that the further you break it down, I think at the states it's a better solution, but I think it's even better solution if you break it down to doctors and patients and leave it at that.
Yeah.
Just let them work it out between themselves because they're the only two that are really involved. We're going to go to the phones where we've got Dave Ridley. Ridley, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, I have been kind of on a rampage for a while against Taiwan's gun laws.
Oh.
We talked about this much before?
I don't think so, but define a while.
Well, since 2022, I guess.
Okay, yeah, you've got a couple years experience in this one. Okay.
For sure.
Dave, you've been on a rampage against something for as long as I've known you. And that's one of the things I do appreciate about you.
Well, thank you, sir. Not everyone does.
I understand that. So tell me about Taiwanese gun laws.
Of course, they're not my business unless, of course, their gun laws drag the United States into a war that ends my life. Then it becomes my business, right?
Fair enough.
So, yeah, obviously, the concerns over Taiwan would be much mitigated if Taiwan did not have such strict gun control and so few guns in the hands of civilians. In Ukraine, they had 7%. I guess they had 7 guns in the hands of civilians for every 100 people in Ukraine, and that contributed to the problem. It's a small number, but in Taiwan, that number is officially 0.
Wow!
So that makes Taiwan a much more attractive target for President Xi. I don't know if he's the president or not. What he's called, Xi Jinping, the leader of China. I don't know if he's.
I don't know if he's a premier, a president, the Communist Party leader. I don't know what his actual title is.
I think they call him president.
Do they? Okay.
I think so.
El Presidente, Xi Jinping.
Yeah.
Just doesn't roll off the tongue. Okay.
So I thought, well, having complained about it to the public, I should also probably try to do something about it. I don't know what else I could do, but I did reach out to 5 different organizations and individuals in Taiwan that I thought it might be useful for me to be in contact with in some way. Like, is there something I can do to help you with, the struggle for gun rights or something like that? Or, is there some way I can send you some humanitarian aid and pre-position it or something like that?
Right.
I found one gun organization. I think it was their local branch of the IDPA, which is the International Defensive Pistol Association, I believe.
Okay.
Sent them an email, sent Facebook messages to a couple folks, and then I don't remember all the different organizations and people I contacted. But I thought I at least need to try. What else can I do? So.
Maybe you could propagate some of the ideas put forth by Defense Distributed there. I'm sure they have a lot of 3D printers in Taiwan.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could
what
just send
happened
them
was
plans.
That'd be cool.
The responses I got were either no response or ridicule or, well, you've been watching too much Fox News, or what do you know that we don't? I'm really worried. Tell me more. But no one was interested in receiving anything or receiving any assistance or, working together on any kind of activism or something like that. So I contacted everyone that looked appropriate to contact, and I didn't get anywhere with it. So I feel kind of like I've done my part, and no one really wanted me to do my part. Does that make sense?
Like you took up a cause and there was no one there watching. It's like nobody was responsive at all. Yeah, that's always a challenge, and it's frustrating when you believe in something so deeply. And I don't know that I've had things like that happen where I was up in arms and nobody replied, and nobody got as angry as I was. But David, I applaud your
absolutely. David does good
your
work.
efforts, and thank you for the call. 603-283-6160 is our number. Give us a call. It's Free Talk Live.
When New Hampshire peacefully leaves the Union, will we have to take on some of the national debt? Let's be clear, that's not national debt, that's federal debt. Debt that was incurred by a bunch of people that we didn't elect, forcing policies on us that we didn't want, and 2.5 million unelected federal bureaucrats. According to Professor Matt Quartrup from Coventry University and the foremost expert on independence referenda, the rule in international law is that political divorce is not like domestic divorce in that there is no alimony due and no obligation to pay the debt incurred by the larger organization. New Hampshire's government is a paragon of fiscal responsibility compared to the United States federal government. We didn't create the national debt, we didn't consent to it, and when we declare peaceful independence, New Hampshire will not owe a single solitary dime of federal debt. You can learn more about how we can peacefully divorce D.C. at NHindependence.org and join the movement at NHexit.us.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. The United Nations Security Council members have voiced concern over the escalating tensions in the Middle East. The Council convened an emergency session on Wednesday following Iran's missile attack on Israel on Tuesday. Jody Jacobs reports from the United Nations in New York.
It was another intense session of the UN Security Council on Wednesday, with Israel insisting Iran will pay the ultimate price for its attack.
Israel will defend itself.
But this did not go down well with Iran. Its ambassador to the UN, Amir Saeed Arafani, maintaining the attack was out of necessity and a proportionate response to Israel's continued aggression in the region.
Israeli must understand that each act of aggression it makes, it's not unpunished.
The United States has pledged its full support to Israel.
The United States is fully supportive of Israel.
Fears are mounting here in New York of a potential all-out regional war, something that has the UN Secretary General worried. Antonio Guterres saying this deadly cycle of tit-for-tat violence must stop.
A California doctor has pleaded guilty to conspiring to distribute the drug ketamine in connection to the death of actor Matthew Perry. The Friends star was found dead in his hot tub last year after a ketamine overdose. From California, Ira Spitzer has more.
Mark Chavez pleaded guilty in a Los Angeles courtroom, admitting to diverting ketamine from his clinic to another doctor, who then sold the drug to Matthew Perry. Chavez entered the plea as part of a cooperation agreement with authorities and faces a maximum sentence of 10 years. The Friends star, who was 54 years old when he died last October, had become addicted to the drug, which is sometimes legally used to treat depression. 5 people have been charged over Perry's death, and 3 of them, including Chavez and Perry's former assistant, have agreed to plea deals. The other 2 have pleaded not guilty and are awaiting trial.
US President Joe Biden has visited North and South Carolina, while Vice President Kamala Harris is going to neighboring Georgia after the region was pummeled by Hurricane Helene. The president announced the deployment of an additional 1,000 active duty soldiers to bolster rescue and recovery efforts. They join more than 10,000 National Guard and federal aid workers already spread out across the southeastern U.S. At least 175 people are now known to have been killed by Hurricane Helene. Hundreds of others remain missing. Thousands of U.S. dock workers are on strike for a second day in a dispute over pay and the move towards automation. Economists fear the disruption could impact the U.S. economy and global supply chains. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
You can go back and listen to the whole thing. We publish it on all sorts of different platforms. Like, heck, I think it's on Twitch, it's on Odyssey,
it's all over the internet.
It's all over the internet. Everywhere you look, everywhere you turn, there's Free Talk Live. Now, it's probably not that prevalent, but
yeah, probably not. But
it's in.
We're definitely hiding in your ears somewhere.
somewhere. But I wanted to take a moment to thank Edge Wallet for sponsoring Free Talk Live. Edge Wallet is a custodial wallet for cryptocurrency. Is it custodial or non-custodial? I'm just looking at the copy here. This means you control your keys to your own wallet the way crypto is supposed to be. Visit edge.app for more, and thank you, Edge Wallet, for sponsoring this show.
A lot of people like Edge Wallet.
I do.
I like it.
I've been using it for the last probably 4 years. There were a number of other multi-currency cryptocurrency wallets that were out there. In other words, they would hold not only your Bitcoin, but maybe also hold your Dash and different cryptos within the same wallet, with only loading a single app on your phone, which has always appealed to me because I use and own several different cryptocurrencies, and if I want to carry some around with me and have them easily accessible, having a wallet loaded on my phone is a good idea. Because here in New Hampshire, you can actually go into a number of stores and pay for something with Bitcoin Cash, or pay with something with Dash or something like that. I know this is an alien concept to a lot of people out there, and a lot of people believe that crypto is something that you just buy and hold on to it. If you hold on long enough, man, you'll be worth millions. I don't believe that was the true nature of how cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think people just got lost in it being a speculative asset rather than a tool or a tool of exchange.
Right.
Yep, I've always just used it like money.
Yeah, and a lot of people do, and me, I'm kind of divided. I do keep some. I will keep some that I have some speculative interest in, but that doesn't mean all of it that I never spend anything, because I've certainly spent my fair share. Actually, when I moved to New Hampshire, you got to entice people into helping you move, right? That's always a challenge.
Yeah.
You got to buy pizza, and you got to convince people to come by the house and help unload boxes and stuff like that. So when we came up and we offered pizza, and we ended up getting about 33 people at my house to help us move in. That was, I thought, a ridiculously high number. That's a big move-in party. So
Yeah,
I'm like, man, we got to do something special. Said, I'll tell you what, I'm also going to dig out of one of these boxes. I know we've got some raffle tickets. Yep, we do. Okay, there's going to be a door prize. Whoever wins this door prize, I'm going to give them $50 in Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
In 2014.
Yep. That's a good chunk now. That was
that would be that'd be a huge chunk of money if someone held on to it.
0.05 or so.
I haven't calculated it lately, but I know in the last couple of years I did calculate that I had given them, if they held on to it, that would be worth about $5,000 at that time.
Yep.
Not bad for helping somebody move. So, whenever somebody asks you to move, you should always say yes, and you should hope they do a door prize of Bitcoin or some other cryptocurrency.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Stu and I were talking a bit before we came back. Edge also supports FIO addresses, which is kind of a handle for cryptocurrency addresses. Cryptocurrency addresses are usually strings of 32 alphanumeric numbers and letters in sequence, and it doesn't really flow off the tongue. You can't really remember them. Mm-hmm. But I have a FIOS address that allows my crypto address to be at just a short combination of my first and last names.
Yep. Yeah, more like an email address.
Yeah.
And you can link all your wallets inside of Edge to that, so that anybody sending the crypto of their preference, it'll still get there, whether it's Bitcoin Cash or Dash or what have you.
So Stu and I had a surprisingly similar issue. I think we both paid for a registration for a FIOS address at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple years go by and we realize we have to renew it. And I think the price for the renewal charge went up, and we both looked at each other and like, Stu's like, I didn't renew mine. I'm like, man, I didn't either.
Yeah. I think it was like $8 the first time, and then when it expired and they wanted me to renew, it was like $60, and I wasn't going to do it.
Yeah, that would be a lot of money. So I've got to look back into FiOS addresses and see how much mine would cost to renew. I don't believe this was we were wondering whether this was an Edge creation because we had both done it in Edge, but I think it's an open standard that is in use in a lot of different wallets, and that would be interesting. I know MetaMask, which is a huge and widely used wallet on the Ethereum platform. I'm looking at widely adopted. FiOS is in the Opera browser operating. I'm sure they have a crypto wallet built into that. MetaMask, Binance, and Edge Wallet. And there may be others involved in their ecosystem. But it doesn't change or depend on the fact that Edge just happens to be a great wallet. And I probably have a dozen different cryptos in my Edge wallet. About wallets on phones, this is not investment advice. I'm just telling you my point of view on whether to trust your crypto to a wallet on a device that you're likely going to lose at some point or drop in the toilet, because this happens too.
Mm-hmm.
I treat my crypto wallet that I carry around on my phone much like the leather wallet I carry in my back pocket. They both have basically the same value. I might have a couple $100 in my leather wallet, and in my crypto wallet that I carry around, there may be a couple $100 worth of crypto in that. And my crypto on my phone wallet would never have all the crypto I own.
Right.
I will keep those on hardware wallets that are very secure and kept in very secure locations. But for walking around money, having a crypto wallet on your phone is really convenient and makes it easy to spend and make little purchases or transfer to a friend or something like that.
Yep. And for me, I've been using Edge for 3+ years, and it's always been fast. I think there were 2 days that I tried to use it and it wouldn't pull it up on the PIN login alone. You had to go through the other login method.
Right.
With your username and password. And that wasn't a problem either. That's the only thing I've seen go wrong with it. Whereas some of these other multi-wallets that you would talk about, like Exodus, I was using that in 2017, and it went through some really weird stuff that was scary. People lost their crypto, and type of scary.
I can say that too. I've never lost crypto to Edge Wallet. I've just never had that happen.
Yep.
It may, which is why I don't trust any wallet with a huge amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
But for small amounts, I'm just as likely to lose my wallet, my leather wallet, as lose my crypto wallet, and I won't trust it any further than that.
Yep, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and so I'm glad Edge is supporting the show again, and we missed you. I mean, heck, I see Edge Wallet every day because I carry it around, but almost all the customers who come in and spend crypto in my store, are the majority, I would say 90%, are using Edge Wallet because it's that easy. It's just what people like.
How many crypto customers do you get per week, Chris?
I would say 4 or 5.
Okay.
Some weeks it's more. I used to get a lot more because when we were next door to the Bitcoin Embassy, that definitely brought in a lot more. I talk about crypto every day, and because people see our signage and they go, wow, you accept Bitcoin? I'm like, yes, that's easy. And it's always an opportunity to talk cryptocurrency and answer questions for people that just don't know as much as they think they should. And it's good. It usually involves dispelling rumors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like people have so many misconceptions. It's like,
Oh, isn't that expensive? You got to buy a whole one.
I can't afford $60,000 to get a Bitcoin. It's like no.
You buy $10 worth.
You can buy less than that, and you can buy and sell less than that. That's the crazy thing. So there was a crypto-related story that I saw wrapped up. Did you guys ever hear about this free stater here in New Hampshire who started a treasure hunt?
No.
Oh, man.
Really?
Okay. So this guy ended up moving to New Hampshire. He is, from what I understand, a liberty kind of guy. But I think his day job when he lived on the West Coast was to be kind of a developer. So he has been in game development for a lot of years. I'm trying to pull this up and bear with me. But basically he came up with this treasure hunt game where he would hide a gold thing out in nature. It was like a gold sort of statuette that had obviously intrinsic value because it was made out of gold. And then everybody who registered to play, I think he did something matching, but it was just found, and the person won not only the $10,000 statue itself, but I think $120,000 or $130,000 in Bitcoin.
Wow.
Yeah. So
impressive.
There was some amount of Bitcoin attached to it. I'll have to pull that up for next week and make sure we talk about it. But
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting because it was treasure hunt. It was crowdsourced and it was only out for I think a couple weeks before somebody found it. From how it was described to me by a friend, and I've got the original story in Wired. I can go into the details, but it started out with a map and a big picture that covered most of New England. And then I think each week the circle would shrink, and it was indicating that somewhere in the circle this thing could be found. I think the rules were it was nothing you would have to climb for. It was nothing that would be difficult to find. He said that it was close to a road, so nobody would have to go off and hike all the White Mountains to get to it. But it was found, I think, yesterday somewhere down in Massachusetts, so it wasn't that far away.
Somebody that was actually looking for it?
Somebody that was actually looking for it. And, well, I guess that's... I don't know if it would be kind of a bummer if somebody just accidentally came across this.
Stumbled on it.
Oh, hey, it's pretty, but it's probably fake anyway. Throw that out.
Yeah, that'd be really bad.
I could hear, don't throw it there. Wait till we get to a garbage can.
Man.
Oh, man. But I like that idea. I like the idea that people are doing things that are fun, and there may be some payoff to the creator. I mean, he certainly found it a fun idea, and actually having something tangible that people could win and would get them involved in. Do you guys ever do geocaching? Did you ever hear of that?
I've heard about it. I've probably done it once, but then it's been so long.
My dad's done some of that. I never have.
I found it was kind of fun. It was like when I was involved in it early on, it was using like GPS units that were like very rudimentary, to say the least. I mean, it pointed you in the right direction. You could see which way to go, but it wasn't the street maps and all that we have today.
Yep.
But it was a way to have an excuse to get out and hike around, and in my case, get my kid out into nature and not just sitting behind a computer video game. That was kind of fun for us. And there were a couple attempts to get some actual cache involved in geocaching and do that. I think that's an intriguing idea. My friend who told me about this one said if you found that interesting, because I had sent her the information about this guy actually saying that someone had won this one, she said, I'm in a couple groups where there's like dozens of these things going on all the time with real money. And she's like, it's $1 million out there, $1 million+ out there for whoever finds some of these, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Really?
I don't think I'd quit my day job and become a treasure hunter.
Yeah, I don't think I would either.
But I think that's a not complete waste of people's time if they're getting some fun out of it.
Yeah, it's an adventure.
That it is. I'm just looking for another story we had in here. This is talking about crypto again, but how evidently North Korea has infiltrated the crypto industry. Were you aware of this?
Infiltrated, huh?
Infiltrated. This is a CoinDesk article. More than a dozen blockchain firms inadvertently hired and undercover IT workers from the rogue state, incurring cybersecurity and legal risks, CoinDesk investigation found. CoinDesk identified more than a dozen crypto companies that unknowingly hired IT workers from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or DPRK, including such well-established blockchain projects as Injective, ZeroLand, Phantom, Sushi, I've heard of that one, Yearn Finance, I've heard of that one, and Cosmos Hub, I've heard of that one. The workers used fake IDs, successfully navigated interviews, passed reference checks, and presented genuine work histories. Hiring DPRK workers is against the law in the United States and other countries that sanction North Korea. It also presents a security risk. CoinDesk encountered multiple examples of companies hiring DPRK IT workers, and subsequently getting hacked.
Yep, that seems like a good way to get hacked.
The crypto company Truflation was still in early stages in 2023 when founder Stefan Rust unknowingly hired his first North Korean employee. Quote, "We were always looking for good developers," unquote, Rust said from his home in Switzerland. Out of the blue, quote, "This one developer came across the line," unquote. Raihei sent his resume over Telegram and claimed he was based in Japan. Soon after he was hired, odd consistencies began to surface. At one point, quote, "I'm talking to the guy and he said he was in an earthquake," unquote, Rust recalled, except there was no recent earthquake in Japan. Then the employee started missing calls, and when he did show up, quote, "It wasn't him," unquote, Rust said. Quote, "It was somebody else. Whoever it was had dropped the Japanese accent." Rust soon learned that Raihei and 4 other employees, more than a third of his entire team, were North Korean. Unwittingly, Rust had fallen prey to a coordinated scheme by North Korea to secure remote overseas jobs for its people and funnel the earnings back to Pyongyang. U.S. authorities have intensified their warnings recently that North Korean information technology workers are infiltrating tech companies, including crypto employers, and using the proceeds to fund the pariah state's nuclear weapons program. According to a 2024 United Nations report, those IT workers raked in as much as $600 million annually for Kim Jong-un's regime. So let me get this straight. You didn't do good hiring. You didn't do background checks. You didn't have any idea who these people were. And the North Koreans identified a very lucrative field with lots of potential capital and probably not a lot of checks and balances. The crypto industry is still in a kind of Wild West stage. You know what I mean?
Still a little bit, yeah.
It's still young, it's still growing, and everybody is looking for developers. It's not just crypto companies. crypto companies are in competition with big businesses looking for developers because we just don't make enough developers. Suddenly, these guys come across their screen. They have all the right credentials. They are decent programmers by all indications from this article. But I'm sorry, that's on you.
Yeah,
that's
I think so.
Not on the North Koreans.
Yeah, you got to be more aware of who you're hiring, man.
And this article pretty much makes the case for, U.S. foreign policy. These people are evil, and you cannot, blindly hire people. I agree with that. But I guarantee you, as we go through this article, if I were to continue with it, inevitably there's going to come some point where they're going to call for greater regulation. Well, I'm just going to keep going and see when I get to the call for greater regulation, because I know it's happening.
Well, it also sounds like they're insinuating that the $600 million earned went straight into the pocket of the leader there.
Right. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're probably right.
No, I bet a good chunk of it got its way up there, but
I bet that some of it stuck with some fingers along the way.
Oh, I'm sure.
And maybe some of that money helps some of them get out of North Korea, which wouldn't be a bad thing.
Or at least eat some decent food.
Yeah.
Right. Well, eat food. Just food. That would be really good.
Yeah.
Without having to sell their feces, because that's a thing over there too.
Really? What, are they selling it for fertilizer? Or?
Yes. There is such a demand for fertilizer. They don't have any real industry to produce fertilizer. So everyone has I can't remember the article I read this in, but everyone has a quota of human fertilizer that they are required to return.
Really?
On a regular basis.
That's
your
insane.
food rations on deposit. We'll expect your core later.
You have to do your part for the great state.
Wow.
Even if that means collecting things in buckets and bags and returning them to a collection point.
I don't even want to give those guys my fingerprints, let alone. Man.
Yeah, it
seems like they're asking a bit much.
Oh, I agree. They're asking a lot there.
Now I'm just skimming this article to see where it says, lots of people I think are mistaken. Previously, CoinDesk linked DPRK IT workers to companies using various methods, including blockchain payment methods, public GitHub code contributions, emails from U.S. government officials, and interviews directly with targeted companies. One of the largest North Korean payment networks examined by CoinDesk was uncovered by Zach XBT, a blockchain investigator who published a list of suspected DPRK developers in August. Previously, employees remained silent due to concerns over unwanted publicity or legal repercussions. Now, confronted with extensive payment records and other evidence unearthed by Coinbase, many of them have decided to come forward. That is all the time we have tonight for Free Talk Live, but thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to come back next Thursday.
Or Wednesday.
Or a couple other nights, and join in. Peace.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money